All right, that would have been DM.
Good evening, everyone. We are going to open our regular meetings for July 16th, 2025. Town of Diamond Valley acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of Siksika, Kainai, and Kainai First Nations, the Dene of Tucson First Nations, Stoney Nakoda, including Chiniki, Bearspaw, and the Stoney First Nations, and Métis region of Alberta. We have an agenda in front of us. Adoption of the consent agenda, please. Could I get that first? Councillor Kelchestad, all in favor? And for anyone who doesn't know or is watching from afar, we have Heather Compton, councillor online. So she is voting through the online version and will vocalize once our equipment is a little bit more sound ridden. We have our regular agenda. Nope, we're gonna move and close first. No, we gotta adopt our regular. Do we have the addition in this?
I don't think we're adding there.
No, with Dave Fair, we won't need.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, excellent. In that case, adoption of agenda, please. Cindy wins that hand race. All in favor? That is carried. Can I get a motion to go into close, please?
I'll give you that.
As you wins that one. 3.1 going into close to discuss section 24D, personal information, and 31C, contract negotiations. All in favor?
Hi.
That was carried. Thank you, Heather. We will stop recording, and when you're stopped recording, we will proceed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. We are going to reconvene our meeting that started today at 4:15. We had a land acknowledgement. We had an enclosed session regarding contracting. We came to a close at 4:43. We do have a motion arising. Before we do that, we're going to just confirm we have Councillor Thompson online. So Heather. Again, Heather.
I'm here.
Okay, I think Black Diamond heard you. Okay. Again, maybe just raise your hand and Verna will be watching you on the queue. And then she'll notify me if you want to speak or have any questions.
Okay.
I don't know why I keep turning around the speaker, you're not there. All right, excellent. Okay, so that wraps up that. So motions arising out of closed session. We do have a few on the board. Councillor Kelly, would you please?
Yeah, am I able to give a little bit of context just so that people here know what we're talking about? Yeah, okay. Just because it has nothing to do with tonight, I didn't want people to think that we were talking about tonight before everybody got here. We have in the past few years been working on a water treatment plant, water sewage treatment plant upgrade, which precedes a couple of councils. Mr. Ted Baines here, and he sat on that board commission. And with the upgrade, we are entering into a partnership or tend to enter into a partnership with a local company, semi-local company that's going to help support the town. This will help decrease our costs with WCB and with FTEs, so full-time employees. And so these motions that we're about to read out tonight are giving administration a little bit of direction to help with negotiating the contract on the town's behalf. And I think that's pretty much it. Does that sum it up? Yeah, okay. So the first motion coming in a closed is that council directs administration to sole source water and wastewater contracted operations, as there are no other providers that meet the criteria the town needs. And I believe that's it for the first one.
Any discussion?
Yeah, if I may. For further clarification, the upgrades that have been done on the lagoon have necessitated the need for level 3 operations, which we don't currently have. And that's one of the key elements. Our operators aren't licensed to provide level 3 services. And so this was really the only viable option that was presented. Yeah, without risk. Yeah.
All right, my question for clarity, we have water and wastewater contracting. Water is presently handled by Shrug. Does that word actually belong in this motion?
I think you got it out of your worship.
I think we should cut it as two.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I ask for an amendment for water distribution? It's not the water treatment plant, it's water distribution.
That's the clarity I was looking.
Yes, at least we've got it right.
Yeah, it's phase two.
I don't cut it out.
Water distribution is the word we want to add? Yeah, okay, thank you, Cindy. I knew we had something in there that we wanted to do. Okay. That works for us. All right, any further discussion? Ready, Heather? Here we go. All in favor?
Aye.
And that's carried unanimously. All right. Second motion, please.
Our second motion here is that council will direct administration to enter into an agreement with Aquaterra effective January 1st of 2026 until December 31st of 2030 to manage the operations of water distribution and wastewater.
Thank you. Any questions for clarity? All good? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. All right, moving on. That was the only motions arising from our closed session. We are now into the question period. So question period is a 15-minute section of the council meeting that we hold for the public to ask questions of council or administration. You can ask just about anything you want. We prefer if you email it in, text it into a counselor, however you want to get that information to us. We add it to the agenda and then we read them out. So right now I have one that was submitted. Is that correct? Just one submitted. And if you're in the audience at a regular council meeting and you want to ask a question, you'd fill out this same form over by the door, not here, but in council chambers. And usually we can answer it most of the time, but if it's a technical question, then it might be one of those ones that we defer to the next time. So anyway, this question is, hi, I live on Henderson Crescent Northwest. Beside me is an empty lot. Beside that is a neighbor where my neighbor lives, obviously. I understand that this area has an R1 neighborhood designation. So why is the developer being allowed to build 4 duplexes between us? He plans on putting a road alongside my fence and parking lot out front of the Anderson Crescent. Why would the town council rezone that lot to R3? This will cause extra audio noise beside me and more congestion on Anderson. And parking is tough already. As mentioned, I cannot make the meeting online or in person, but if possible, I would like an answer. Our planning department did respond. 609 Anderson Crescent. The parcel was a municipal reserve parcel provided during the subdivision in 1982. The municipal reserve dedication was removed by council on February 3rd, 2020 under bylaw 2011-00. The parcel was redesignated public service with the adoption of the Turner Valley bylaw, Turner Valley land use bylaw, 21-1114 in May of 2021. There is no active redesignation application or development permit application for the parcel, and there is no active approval for development on the parcel. So that answers all the question. A lot of times we get these and it's all on a hearsay. And this is a good example of someone's going to build a 4-plex next to me. No, they're not. Right? So there's no application that exists. Nothing's been submitted. So that answered that question. We received no further emails, none, not a one. All right, and with that, we will close question period. We are now going to move on to overall here for 6.1, bylaw 2025-118 Colt Crossing Area Structure Plan. So this is my gavel. I will call the public hearing open. If I use this gavel, even in the slightest, if I look at you and tap it like that, that means you're way off the topic, right? But we're here to talk about the Colt Crossing Area Structure Plan, not a nation or my road's dirty, it's too dusty or anything like that. So the gavel is only used to open and close a meeting, or just to give you a Ted, you're off topics, we're not talking library. So that's what we're doing with the gavel, right? So if you see me reaching for it, that probably means you've gone off on a tangent. We'll get to that when we get to the presentations from the public.
All right, so first we went to the legals. I hereby declare the public hearing for bylaw 2025-118 Holt's Crossing Area Structure Plan open at 5:21 PM, July 16, 2025. Public hearings are held pursuant to section 216.4 of the Municipal Government Act to hear presentations and representations from the public on proposed bylaws. I am Mayor Barry Crane and I will chair this public hearing. All discussions or questions should be directed through myself here with my gavel, whether by council members, administrations, or speakers. Please direct your questions through me, and then I will allocate a speaker to either answer or we'll try and answer ourselves. Council, please be reminded you will not debate this matter during the hearing. The decision regarding whether to grant this bylaw further reading is dealt with later on in the agenda, 8.1. And or at any subsequent meeting if deemed necessary. So with that being said, Mr. Davey, our CAO over in Far Corner, can you please confirm that notification for the public hearing was provided in accordance with the Municipal Government Act?
Confirmed, your worship.
Thank you. And that being said, Ms. Florazone is our town planner right here. Can you please present your staff report and explain purpose of the proposed bylaw? Council, if you have any questions for clarification, hold them until after presentation, then I'll give you an opportunity to do so. You.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. As the mayor said, Carrie Florazone, Planning and Development Manager for the town. We're here tonight to discuss the revised Holt's Crossing Area Structure Plan presented as bylaw 2025-118 for council's consideration and decision. There was a previous version of the area structure plan that came before council this spring. It's been revised, taking into consideration some comments from that meeting and is here tonight. So to clear up any confusion, there is no statutory limitation for reapplication. That's why we can bring it back. The anticipated population of the area structure plan as written phases 1 to 3 is approximately 2,150 people, with about 40% of the area dedicated to residential uses. It's also prudent to note that in addition to bylaw 2025-118, which is the area structure plan, on the agenda tonight is 119, which is a bylaw to add a district into the town of Black Diamond land use bylaw, and 120, which is a redesignation for phase 1 of the ASP. And those are on the agenda for first reading tonight. The subject lands are currently being farmed without structures on them. There is the highway to the north, county to the east and south, and existing residential to the west. There is some existing residential in the county as well, and some vacant land on the west that is under the Kaiser area structure plan. Under the MGA, we have the requirements to define sequence of development, phase 1, 2, 3, as per the area structure plan document. Proposed land uses are in the document under table 4 and section 3.2. The population density, the proposal has a housing density of about 15.3 units per gross residential hectare. The location of major transportation routes, 6th Street Southeast will be a north-south connection along the west side of the development with 3 main collector roads. There is no, I'll get to that screen. Water servicing for phase 1 has been identified, wastewater servicing for phase 1 has been identified, and stormwater servicing for phase 1 has been identified. However, no specifics have been provided for phase 2 or 3 beyond the wet ones that are shown in phase 3. Sections of the intermunicipal development plan require consideration of impacts on adjacent land uses within Foothills County prior to urban residential development, and require consideration of impacts on regional and intermunicipal transportation systems, i.e. the traffic impacts that the development may have within Foothills County. Foothills County has provided a letter of comment and connectivity into Foothills County in consideration of impacts on the adjacent land uses have not been directly addressed within the ASP. The ASP generally conforms with the municipal development plan for Black Diamond. So I won't spend too much time on that, and that is the current MDP. So the current MDP requires a density of 6 to 7 per gross acre, where 6.2 proposed. Recommends that MR be consolidated and centrally located, which is presented in the ASP, and that the provision of MR must first be directed to accommodate school uses. And the intention is that we will consult with these school boards in greater detail as we move through land use and subdivision. We also know we're working on a new municipal development plan, so there is some commentary in here about that. The current MDP assigns future residential to the southern portion of the subject lands, whereas the draft MDP and direction from steering committee anticipates non-residential uses in the future. The current MDP assigns that 6 to 7 units per gross acre, where the steering committee on June 17th directed 24 units per hectare, or 9.7 units per gross acre. So if people are wondering where the 30 down to 24 went, 30 was the draft that was presented to steering committee, 24 was the recommendation coming out and is our current working number. Water availability wasn't a consideration in the 2001 MDP, but it's been brought front and center recently with our new spike in development interest. And it's anticipated that the town will hit a limit on what development can be serviced by the town before we run out of developable land. The current municipal development plan versus the draft municipal development plan, there's also a shift in greenfield versus infill focus. So the cost of providing municipal services to residents keeps rising and will keep rising due to deferred maintenance that's now becoming urgent. The draft MDP comes to address this reality head on through policies that prioritize non-residential growth and residential redevelopment within established communities, with contrast to the current MDP, which has a greater priority on greenfield. The plan was circulated to numerous stakeholders. Some of the comments that we got back, the fire chief commented on road cross sections and potential for limiting on-street parking. Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors had no concerns or objections, but did provide a comment, which their letter is attached. ATCO Gas had no concerns, had some requirements that are attached that will be implemented if it moves forward. Sheep River Regional Utility Corporation had sent a letter regarding the previous iteration of the plan. They re-provided it, basically saying that they would like to stay involved as progress on the development moves forward, which is part of the town's process anyway. Same with West End Regional Sewage Services Commission. They want to stay engaged, make sure that they have capacity and they know what infrastructure is being added to the system, part of our process anyway. Foothills County remains concerned with the revised area structure plan, concerns over vehicle connectivity to the east, potential conflicts with the nearby residential use, and general concerns over the road networks and boundary conditions. So their letters from June 27th and May 12th have been attached to this report. The town also receives 10 letters with comments from the public. Some were very negative, some were just probably more on the inquiry side of things. Some of the comments and concerns were the planning area of the ASP, the density, that the lots are too small, cohesion with the rest of the character of town, the intersection with or access to Highway 7, Center Ave, increased traffic on 4th Ave, access to and increased traffic on 144th Street in Foothills County, the removal of the service road of 402 Ave on the north side, pedestrian facilities along 6th Street, water availability, new schools, wastewater, sanitary, construction costs, development, mapping, and conversion mistakes within the document, protection of wildlife, lack of proposed recreational facilities, public engagement, concerns and questions regarding the changes made since bylaw 2025-102, which is the first iteration of the plan, housing costs, and developer reputation. I'm not going to go into a terrible lot of response to those. They are in my report, I think quite concisely. If they come up in further conversation from the public tonight, I'd be happy to address those in more detail as council requires. If that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor.
And we read them all. So
Perfect. There is a short section in my report about the planning process in general and how we move through the hierarchy from intermunicipal development plan through the municipal development plan, area structure plan, land use subdivision. And basically, as we get more finite, we get more detail. So that was just put in there to create a little bit more clarity, which I think was something that struck me in the spring to add. And I know that our applicant is going to provide so much more detail and information, so I'm going to leave it there.
all right, thank you. Council, any questions for administration? Jonathan, please. Cindy, first, go ahead.
Yeah, so with the planning hierarchy, so the county has concerns about the road connectivity. Which stage would those concerns be dealt with, for example?
So the county has the right to comment on an area structure plan. They have the right for their concerns to be addressed within an area structure plan. If they have outstanding concerns that they feel are material in nature, and I'm just going to go to the section. If a municipality is of the opinion that a statutory plan adopted by an adjacent municipality has or may have a detrimental effect on it and has given written notice of its concerns prior to second reading, and it goes through, they may appeal the matter to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal. And so I'd say that it's in everybody's best interest to have those concerns addressed prior to adoption of the plan.
Hello,
It's,
Heather here.
Oh, okay, Heather, go ahead, and then we'll go to Jonathan.
Um, on the map on page 26 of the ASP, and Carrie, can you tell me what R2M is? I see it's residential, but what is the 2M?
So bylaw 2025-119 in the package for first reading is a new district proposed for the town of Black Diamond land use bylaw. That administration is supportive of. It's a broader district that would allow a wide range of residential uses in the planning area. It would offer developers flexibility moving forward, including the developer who's applied for it, to take on projects as defined in the district, and they wouldn't have to keep coming back to council for amendments to facilitate that development.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Jonathan?
yeah, if I may ask a question directly related to some of the concerns that have been identified, the units per acre, 6.2 per acre, where the draft MDP based on the steering committee's advice was 9.7 per acre. So please give me some advice on how we either mitigate that, eliminate that, or work with that.
Sections tonight. Consistency of plan, section 638, area structure plan must be consistent with any municipal development plan. And a municipal development plan prevails to the extent of any conflict or inconsistency between an area structure plan and the municipal development plan. Should council adopt this with the current proposed density, and then the MVP gets adopted and that minimum density can't be met, then we would be looking for a shift. The way that the ASP is written, however, is an anticipated unit count within the area. A defined minimum density or maximum density for that matter isn't written in stone in policy anywhere. So as land use and subdivision come forward, we would have to be mindful as administration to ensure that we're meeting the targets of the municipal development plan.
Thank you very much. So just to confirm, the land use bylaw, when that's hypothetically, this ASP is approved, it's brought into force. When the land use, when the subdivisions take place, then when development permit applications are submitted, that's when we tighten things up based on the MDP, correct?
It's an approach that can be taken, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions, comments? Cindy, go ahead.
Yes, one more after Cindy.
Okay, sounds good.
So then we do have, with the new MDP, there was a little section now still in the phase 2 of this one that dips down into what we've considered employment lands. So it won't align in the new MDP. When will that get sorted out?
So if council moves forward with this area structure plan, presumably that's the will of council moving forward. And so we would have to amend the mapping of the municipal development plan to eliminate any conflict that may occur there moving forward.
All right, Heather, over to you.
Yeah, and one more question. The fire chief has noted that the on-street parking will be limited to one side of the street. And I brought this up at the previous ASP hearing, that we don't want to be caught in the same situation where there's safety concerns about fire trucks, et cetera, getting down streets. We already have that concern. I just don't feel that the width of the roads should be limited to on-street parking, because even when you do have both sides on-street parking, in some of our subdivisions, we're lucky we could get a fire truck through there when everybody comes home at night. So is that a concern of yours, Carrie, or just a question?
There are always merits and drawbacks to every approach. The developer is trying to work within the road cross sections approved by council, which are the road cross sections from the city of Calgary specs. The trade-off will always be, when you increase the size of a road, you're increasing the amount of land dedicated to roads, which then is not taxable. You are increasing the cost of the road, which is an upfront cost to the developer, which gets passed on to the homeowners. It's an upfront cost to the town in terms of long-term maintenance. Increasing size of roads may, in some instances, increase speeds of traffic. So if we want to slow down traffic, tightening up streets is a natural way to do that. We also want fire trucks to get down our streets. So there is a balance and sometimes trade-off with some of these things. We don't want them so wide they become highways. But I do hear the concerns about on-street parking and accommodation of through traffic, and the intention is always to work within the engineering specs. We refer it to our engineers for comment on alignment with policies and best practice. And at this point, there's no concerns kind of from an administrative level.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions on the town presentation at this point? Going once, twice. Oh, right. Mr. Davey, the town has received 5, am I to understand, written submissions post agenda approval. Is that correct? Just 5? That's correct. And I have those in my possession. So I will read those out loud into the record. The submitted ones, as Ms. Florazone indicated, are in the agenda package. We've read them. We don't need to read them aloud. We will read these as they came in late. So I will start off with these. I've got 4, and then Mr. Jack Coltis is here, so he's going to read his. So I'll have you go last, Jack. I got it. From Chester Lee, have the developers considered the negative effect that almost doubling the size of Diamond Valley will change the small feel that has been lost in Cochrane and Okotoks? Signed, Andy Lees. Again, we don't need to answer these questions. This is an opportunity for us to voice them on behalf of the residents who wrote them. What's going to happen is I'm going to read these, then we're going to move on to the developer's presentation. Then the microphone's going to be there for everyone else to have their questions, and then we'll start answering questions as well. If we can answer some of these for clarity, there's no real answer to that. That's a council decision. We'll give it some context. Dear Mayor and Council, I'm writing to express my support for bylaw 2025-118, which proposed the adoption of the Colts Crossing Area Structure Plan in Diamond Valley. As a community member who values both the small town character of Diamond Valley and the importance of responsible growth, I believe Colts Crossing presents a thoughtful and much needed approach to development. The plan demonstrates a strong understanding of what makes Diamond Valley unique, while also addressing critical needs such as a broader range of housing types to accommodate residents of different life stages and income levels, new public spaces and trails to enhance recreational opportunities and community well-being, and the potential for a new school, which is essential for families and for supporting long-term growth in a balanced way. It is important to remember that every neighborhood, including those we live in today, was once a proposal that faced its own share of scrutiny. Many of us would not be living in our current homes if the past developments had been rejected. Just as previous community members made space for us, it is now our turn to support a vision that can welcome and sustain future residents. Community building is a generational effect. While concerns are natural, we also have a responsibility to contribute positively, just as others have done for us. The Colts Crossing Plan reflects a balanced approach, respecting the town's identity, while planning in a sustainable, inclusive way. For this reason, I support the adoption of bylaw 2025-118 and encourage council to move forward with this plan for the benefit of current and future residents of Diamond Valley. Sincerely, Sushi Reddy. Pat Lothrop. The developer should provide land funding for a new community center. Sustainability should be a consideration. Examples: rain barrels, xeriscaping, parks, etc. Trees should be ensured there is at least one tree planted by the developer on each lot, 2 on corner lots, as well as along the collector roads. Entrance to 4th Ave. This will be one of the key entrances besides the highway entry. It should be a welcoming statement of arrival. This will be the largest community in Black Diamond, and it will define the growth of Diamond Valley for 25 years to come. The amount of traffic to build out that passes the intersection of 4th Avenue and 6th Street is a concern, and a traffic circle would be justified right off the start. There should be a nice sign or entrance monument as part of the traffic circle. I appreciate your consideration on these points, Pat. And that's some welcome suggestions. It's not always a question. Sometimes it's just good ideas. Hello, Verna. My husband and I have already submitted a letter of disapproval regarding Colts Crossing to the town office, but I see on the agenda that all other questions need to be submitted prior to the meeting on July 16th. We would like to know if a forensic audit has been or will be conducted regarding any council member or town office employee having any affiliation to Quantum Place. This would include family, friends, business, investment ownership, or any other interest that may influence financially or otherwise affect their decisions regarding Colts Crossing. Further extend those affiliations to the landowners or the corporation 386809 Alberta Limited. Beyond all the logistical questions regarding services, transportation, and such, why do we not have an opportunity to discuss the actual physical layout of the community? Example, where green spaces are, the size of those spaces, road access, etc. Currently, we have offered suggestions in this regard, and they do not appear to have been addressed. Thank you for addressing this question, Tammy and Guido Kramer. On the end of that one, I'll address this one a bit. Logistical questions regarding services, transportation, and such, and why do we not have an opportunity to discuss the actual physical layout of the community, and the examples being green space, open spaces, road width, access. That is exactly what an MDP does. That is exactly what we've been advertising and asking the community to do for about 9 months now. Come to it, give us your thoughts. We, I think, had 7 people at the top That was the biggest amount of people that showed up for that portion, right? So those are questions we've been advertising, we sent out surveys, so we've done our bit there. In regards to forensic audits, family, friends, businesses, investment and ownership of companies, I got no comment on that. The answer is no. We got a permanent resident of 60 years here who's, you know, got her whole life and grandkids dedicated. A man who's got his daughter's business in town, a faith-based individual with 4 kids. Been here, all their kids going through school, kids in school, totally committed. I got 4,000 hours of volunteer service. Like, the question of our character, Heather's been here, I think she's 4th generation. So questions about the character of council and us having backside deals, I just want to take my foot and put it in places when I hear those things. Although it's all part of being in politics, so I acknowledge that some people just can't trust people. But we're here for the best interest of the community, and that is why we're here. So as much as I appreciate the sarcasm in this, I also acknowledge that some people just aren't happy. So that's fine. And Jack, you can read yours if you wish, and then Councillor Gordon, I'm going to go to you. All right, that way, please.
Thanks, McCray. I was in this building that I ran into one of your consultants on another topic. And he informed me and educated me on the best practices of having best practices ratio between commercial and residential. And we're not doing so good in that area. That's what it is. So I have basically 3 kind of questions, but they relate to the first question. So has the town done a multi-year cost benefit analysis on the impact of these new residents coming in versus any potential commercial that's there? First question. Second question, if one has been done, will the town share that information with the residents, which will show us whether or not it's going to have an impact on our taxes or not an impact? And third, if an analysis isn't done, will there be one done to identify over the years, is there going to be a negative impact to this development, to our taxes, or a benefit to it? Thank you.
Yeah, you can.
Thanks for the questions, Jack. Hi, Jack. I just wanted to address the very first part of that when it comes to business and residential. Currently, we are at an 11.5% business tax rate. And for a community our size, the sustainable number should be over 20%. So that we can continue growing and keeping taxes low for our residents. This year, council got a little bit creative with some of our unused lands owned by Conoco and Phillips and some of the other bigger industries. And we were able to shift a little bit of that tax increase that would have been burdened by our residents over to that undeveloped land. That's not a big picture, long fix for us. What we'd like to see some of these companies do is either do something with the land, develop it, sell it, so that it can be used here in the community. But I just wanted to give you a perspective on the numbers. So currently we are 8.5% below where we should be. Yeah. So we've been part of this ASP does address that business side of things because the north portion of it has been dedicated for business space. So the light industry mostly. So hopefully, you know, the idea behind that encouraging, we're not looking to bring McDonald's and Costco's and Walmart's, but we'd like to see maybe some local welders or some shops go up there that encourage that business tax rate to be more focused on the businesses rather than on our residents. So I just wanted to address that portion of it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I may pick up on that just a little bit, and then I want to get back to the Kramer question there. You know, you raise a great question about the balance between non-residential and residential tax base. In our draft MDP, that's one thing that we've been really focusing on is how can we, with the lands that have been annexed, how can we identify which lands are best for future employment areas, what that looks like. So that draft MDP is under review, should be presented to council sometime in August. So make sure you're looking for that. We'll have a hearing, we'll be discussing that in greater detail. One of the nicest parts and one of the challenges with economic development in a small community is there's 3 drivers for economic growth in a community. And in rural communities like ours, the key driver, well beyond 90%, is business retention and expansion. And so if you look at the growth of our businesses in the last 10 years, those leading businesses and what are driving the revenue growth is those businesses staying here and growing. So we could use Hard Knocks as an illustration. We could use Arbortech, Far Brewery, Eau Claire Distillery among the 4 leading ones that are quite visible. That is actually driving over 90% of our growth. So the better policy we have in place to support that, the better long-term viability we will have as a community. So great question. If I may circle back to Tammy and Guido Kramer here about forensic audit needed for council and staff. For those of you not aware with council's responsibility, we have the second largest regulatory document guiding and really overseeing what we do. It's called the Municipal Government Act. Does anybody know what the largest regulatory act is within the province of Alberta? It's the Insurance Act. I work in that field as well. So I have a lot of regulatory responsibilities to follow through. And when we talk about our integrity being questioned like this, the reality is Section 170 of the Municipal Government Act outlines very carefully what we can and cannot do when we have what we call a pecuniary interest. So if there's a financial interest in any way, shape, or form that I'm going to benefit from, I have to announce my ties that I have, and I have to recuse myself from them. So I can assure you that council is very aware of that, and we have a high ethical standard that we are following. If you have any more questions on that, I'd love to help you.
That was a very big oral answer. I don't go so smooth. No, it's all good. All right. And then just on the last one, the financial analysis. So it's an MFIA, a Municipal Financial Investment Analysis. And that will come later in their presentation. You'll see some of that. And Jessica can answer in a roundabout way when we get to question period on the other side. So you'll get an answer on that one as well. All right. That being said, those are the 5 questions that were submitted late. The others are in the agenda and have been addressed through this floor as well as responses as well. Applicant presentation, we're moving on. Jessica, do your introductions and let's roll.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us back to present on the revised Schools Crossing ASP. My name is Allison Timmons. With me today is Jessica Carpat. On to place. Next slide, please. Or actually, sorry, community vision is perfect. Thank you. You were on top of it, Brenna. Thank you. Maybe just. Oh yeah. Brenna, are you able to minimize the teams just so I can read it if possible? Thanks. It's kind of small text anyways, but as a reminder, the community vision for Schools Crossing focuses on preserving the rich history and distinct small town ambiance of Diamond Valley. We understand through public engagement that there is concern about ownership and rental opportunities being missing in the town. And so the community is comprehensively planned to provide a diversity of housing types. So we can get a bit more into that later as well. Next slide, please. So we were here on May 14th for the previous public hearing, and we heard a few reoccurring themes at this point in time. There were questions about transportation, things like, are there any off-site transportation improvements required? And no, we did a transportation impact assessment, and it confirmed that the proposed access and infrastructure can handle the development. There is monitoring recommended at later stages of development to ensure this. The supporting report for that, again, is the transportation impact assessment. Yeah, okay. Okay. In terms of water, there were questions about whether or not there's adequate water and wastewater capacity for the development. So yes, Stantec confirmed that there is sufficient capacity in the existing water and wastewater systems to support the development. At each phase of development, so this is specifically at subdivision, the developer will be required to confirm available capacity before that application is approved. So if the ASP is adopted today, that does not commit capacity for the entire area of the proposed community. This is addressed in the preliminary servicing report, station master drainage plan, and preliminary servicing strategy that were done by Stantec. There was a question about what are the financial implications of the proposed development. We did a municipal fiscal impact analysis that showed that the development is expected to have a positive financial impact and will contribute to new tax revenue and require no significant capital investment from the town. Another question about financial impact. Will the developer be responsible for the infrastructure? Yes. All infrastructure needed for the development will be constructed and paid for by the developer. There are no anticipated costs to the town for infrastructure improvements. Again, this is addressed in the supporting reports mentioned regarding transportation and servicing. Another question about community character. How does Colts Crossing impact the character of Diamond Valley? So we are proposing a variety of housing types. So to both suit the existing character of Diamond Valley, but also to provide new offerings that might be missing. Retail and shopping amenities to be provided that would complement existing retail amenities rather than compete with them. The idea of crafting a modern interpretation of the town's style and design. And the big change is that we have identified what was previously shown as phases 4 and 5. They're identified as future urban development. This is to allow flexibility in the future for changing needs or a new MDP. The last question was about current town goals. There were lots of questions about how would the ASP align with the draft MDP, should it be adopted? So again, we did work closely with administration to identify how to have flexibility in the ASP to allow for future alignment. And so the biggest change is that phases 4 and 5 have been identified as future urban development. So we'll go into a bit more detail about what that means and what the policies are about this. But they would limit the maximum, policies limiting the maximum density in the community have also been adjusted to allow for new potential density minimums in the MDP. Next slide, please. So just getting into a bit more detail about what has changed. Following the last public hearing, we did work collaboratively with administration, and we together identified, again, the phases 4 and 5 will be shown as future urban development. So on the map there, you can see that the bottom southern area is just identified more as a gray area, and further on in the process, we would need to work with the town to identify what that land use concept would look like there. All maximum population unit counts and densities have been removed. So there is an anticipated density, as Carrie mentioned, in the ASP, but that wouldn't limit the density from going higher if it needed to align with the MDP. Section 3.6 and related policies have also been added to address how future urban development area would be developed and what steps a developer would need to go through before that would be approved. So these reflect feedback received from administration and council at the public hearing, and it allows flexibility in the future land uses, as well as the densities contemplated currently within the draft MDP. We really wanted to emphasize, while the future urban development area is part of the ASP policy area, it cannot be developed until this ASP would be amended in the future. So even if the ASP is adopted today, that does not allow this future development area to be developed. We would need to come forward with an amendment, a proposed land use concept for that area, and that amendment would need to be adopted by council for any further steps were taken in that portion of the ASP. Next slide, please. So in terms of balanced growth, the ASP represents part of the balanced growth approach for Diamond Valley. We've shown alignment here with the draft MDP in terms of, again, identifying the southern portion as future urban development, removing maximum densities. Again, I wanted to emphasize water is granted at the subdivision level on a first come, first served basis. So adopting the ASP would not guarantee water for the full ASP build out. The community is also designed to encourage a variety of housing types while retaining the town character. And in terms of employment and commercial growth, there is service commercial proposed in the north area of phases 1 and 2, just south of the highway. And then the future urban development area allows flexibility for future non-residential uses as well. Next slide, please. So as Carrie mentioned, this would be an ASP, so it would be subservient to the municipal development plan, should it be adopted. So currently this ASP does need to be subservient to the existing adopted MDP. So again, this ASP has been drafted to align with the existing MDP and is flexible enough to align with the current draft of the future MDP. And it would allow a smooth transition process there. Next slide, please. So again, in terms of supporting documents, we've mentioned some of these, but we worked with technical experts to prepare a variety of supporting technical documents. Many of these reports are based on agreed upon scope with the town and have been updated based on town feedback. So we've mentioned quite a few of these already, so I won't go into a ton of detail here, but just noting that at each phase of development, more detailed studies would be required. Next slide, please. We discussed this a little bit at the last public hearing as well, but existing features were examined within the supporting environmental reports. There were no water courses or drainages identified within the project footprint. Approximately 90% of the area is cultivated with vegetation dominated by non-native grasses. This was discussed at the last public hearing as well. No wildlife of significance as defined in the biophysical impact assessment was found that would prevent development. That's not saying that there is no wildlife there. The result would be that if bird sweeps discovered there was a nest or something to that effect, biologists would require that mitigations be put in place. Next slide, please. So in terms of the concept, the northern portion of the concept is very similar to what you would have seen before. Includes streetscapes designed to encourage vehicular and pedestrian connection. Interconnected parks and pathways are proposed. A future school site is proposed in phase 2. The landscape concept also envisions pavilions and shade structures, as well as playgrounds, to be determined at the land use and subdivision stages of development. And we do have policies in there that would require landscaping, visioning, and concepts at various stages of development. I did also want to touch on, I know in the draft MDP right now, it shows a line directly between the south and north quarter sections, identifying the north as residential and service commercial and the south as employment. And there was a question about whether or not amendments would be made. Typically what we've seen in other municipalities is because the MDP is such a highly conceptual document, it is, not at the same level of detail as an ASP or even further to a conceptual scheme or subdivision. And so generally, as long as, the land use concept and maps generally align with what is shown in the MDP, we have seen other councils accept that as generally in alignment. Of course, it is up to council to make that decision though. Next slide, please. So we have looked at a couple of density scenarios because I know this has been a discussion, especially with the MDP moving forward. So this density scenario is the density that was originally envisioned within the plan and can still technically be achieved in the way that the policies are drafted. So this is 15 units per gross developable hectare or 6 to 7 units per acre. Just looking at an example, what that might look like in phase 1 of the development here is approximately 350 units, approximate population of 800 people, about 85% single and semi-detached houses, about 15% townhouses. Again, this is highly conceptual and an estimate, but we wanted to show you what that might look like. On the right-hand side are some images from Sun City in Arizona. This neighborhood has a similar density to what we're showing here, so it can give you an idea of what the neighborhood layout could look like. Next slide, please. So as Carrie mentioned, I believe the direction for the MDP is now looking at 24 units per gross developable hectare or 9.7 units per acre. And so we took a look at what that might look like in this ASP as well. So again, there's no maximum density proposed in the ASP. So there's no policy that would prevent this density from happening should this ASP be adopted. What we're looking at is an estimated amount in phase 1 of about 540 units, a population And we're looking at more of a 50-50 split of single and semi-detached houses compared to 50% townhouses. The comparable, again, a similar density, you can see in Lake Oswego, Oregon, to give you an idea of what that means. Next slide, please. So in terms of the statistics, you can see the gross area for phases 1 to 3 has been pulled out from the future urban development area. So you can just see the breakdown here for phases 1 to 3 specifically. But there is about 12 hectares or 16% of the northern portion of the area is dedicated to service commercial. This would also allow for light industrial in line with the market analysis and desire for a higher non-residential tax base. We have also initially identified an over-dedication of municipal reserve, 12% compared to the required 10%. So that would allow flexibility at later stages of development to adjust while still staying above or at the minimum 10% required. I think we did a couple calculations of what the non-residential split would look like at future urban development if that was all employment lands as well. I don't know, do we want to jump in that now or later on? Okay, that's good. Next slide, please. So I won't go through all of the ASP policies because most of them are similar to what you've seen before. We have general policies here. And so they address a variety of requirements that include requiring that the ASP aligns with the governing MDP in place. There are also policies to require additional landscaping details at the land use and subdivision stages of development. I had also flagged there were questions about the kind of road widths and standards and cross sections in here. So I don't have the policy written out in here, but there is a policy 3.1.5. And this one requires that development conform to City of Calgary engineering standards until such time as they may be replaced by Diamond Valley engineering standards. So right now, the cross sections you see in there are City of Calgary standards. However, if a developer were to go in and apply for subdivision at say phase 2, and if in between phase 1 and phase 3, new standards specific to Diamond Valley have been adopted, they would be required to align with those standards. Next slide, please. So there are some new ASP policies in here in 3.61. So these are specific to the future urban development. So there are two main policies in here. The first one says, prior to applications for land use or subdivision in the future urban development area, an ASP amendment is required. And this ASP amendment would go to council for consideration. In this ASP amendment, so we're looking at the second policy here, it must identify the proposed land uses for the future development area. It must include an update to Table 5, and Table 5 in the ASP just shows kind of the statistics of the land use breakdown of phases 1 to 3. So it would update it to show potential phases 4 or 5, or however the phasing would be broken down there. It must also identify transitional policies to allow for a gradual increase in intensity of land uses. So from residential to commercial or light industrial, depending on what is proposed in the future development area. And lastly, it must be accompanied by updated technical reports to support the land uses proposed. So if the entire area is proposed as employment lands, the technical reports would need to support that and show that.
I would just add that the technical reports to support phase 1 have been submitted. So that land use information to support the next stages has been done. So the technical studies.
Thanks. Next slide, please. So to support sustainable growth, there is a phasing plan provided. Again, you'll see that what was previously phases 4 and 5 has been shown as future urban development. And these basically what phasing, the point of phasing is a tool to guide appropriate and sustainable growth. It's broken down into 3 phases, the northern section now. So there's strict controls and the implementation policies. And we understand that bringing in new non-residential lands is a high priority. So we've allocated commercial light industrial lands to the north in phases 1 and 3. You can see that a variety of housing types are available in all phases, as well as green spaces within each phase. A proposed school site will be brought in phase 2, and the neighborhood node is proposed in phase 3. Approximate build-out timing for each phase is 5 to 10 years. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, the traffic impact assessment has been completed to support the ASP. The road right-of-way classifications have been established by this assessment, based on City of Calgary standards. Roads within the community are expected to accommodate the current and anticipated traffic flows, with minor signalization upgrades required. In later stages of the Coles Crossing community, monitoring is recommended as volumes increase to determine if Highway 7 is a candidate for twinning, and to determine when reclassification of Highway 7 west of 6th Street would be required. Policies have been included in the implementation section that require additional transportation studies and drawings be provided at later stages of development. This would also apply to the future urban development area. Next slide, please. So a preliminary servicing strategy has been completed for the Coles Crossing community. The phase 1 servicing strategy is based on the anticipated population. Phase 2 will be the logical next step beyond phase 1, as both sewage and stormwater management systems have been accounted for in the sizing of downstream support infrastructure in phase 1. Implementation of phase 3 onward is governed by stormwater management, and as such, community expansion will commence in the northeast corner of the phase 3 area and extend south as market conditions and support infrastructure capacities permit. Again, policies have been included in the implementation section to require additional servicing studies at each stage of development. Next slide, please. So this is just a graphic showing kind of the next stages of development. So you can see for phase 1, the next stage is the land use amendment application stage. And as a reminder, we have submitted that application, and that is going to be considered for first reading later on the agenda today. Following, should land use amendment be approved, we would move on to the subdivision and detailed design stage. And you can see in the graphic at each subdivision stage, there's a star, just as a reminder that it's only at this stage for each phase of development that servicing capacity is confirmed. So, say phase 2 land use amendment, there is no servicing committed to or confirmed at that stage until subdivision is approved. Looking at the future urban development area, there's one more step required, and that would be to amend the area structure plan with this land use concept and supporting reports. Next slide, please. So community engagement was done as per the terms of reference adopted by Black Diamond Council in 2021. The engagement plan was revised to include varying levels of engagement, and this included an online survey and key stakeholder meeting and visioning session. The survey was advertised on the project website, on-site, the Western Vale, and in the e-newsletter, okotoks.ca. It was also shared on the project website and local Facebook pages. The initial concept plan was shared and discussed with stakeholders on June 21st, 2022. What We Heard report has been updated regularly and posted to the website, provides survey responses and open house comments in the appendices. The webpage has been updated regularly as the project has progressed. And we sent out an email update to everyone on the mailing list informing them of the May public hearing as well as this public hearing and how to participate. We've responded to every question and comment we have received via email or phone. Next slide, please. The themes of engagement that were brought up are town and community character, transportation and connectivity, employment opportunities, housing diversity and density, and open space and recreational amenities. And we have done our best to design the community to align with these themes and asks from the community. Next slide, please. We have heard a variety of concerns regarding the application, which we have endeavored to address. We've also heard many positive comments related to providing more affordable and attainable housing options and diverse commercial and business opportunities. So with that, we'll go to the next slide, and we are available for any questions should you have them. We do have supplemental slides to point to help address questions as well if necessary.
Thank you. Okay, go to council first. Questions for the development? Cindy?
Yeah, I appreciate the changes that you've made in plan planning for that future employment lands, that this is something that's very important for council. But I think before we get too much farther in the public hearing, I think it's important to address that we're not here deciding whether the landowner should be allowed to develop their land. They've been annexed and they are allowed. We're not choosing between no development and development. That ship has sailed when previous councils annexed that land. So here tonight, our job as council is to say, what is the best way for that land to look in the future, now that we know now that we have it annexed, and that landowner does have the right to develop it. And I know that there is a lot of concern about the residents living in the neighborhood right to the west of it. And so I guess my biggest concern now is the phasing. And I think it's unfortunate in the previous application as well that you identified it 1A to be directly to the east, development to start directly to the east of the established neighborhood. And as a councillor, I would appreciate if it was more of a north moving down to the south development phasing, if that makes any sense to you, because it's the most intrusive place to develop. You have a whole quarter section, so why would you start with right across the fence from many of these people are in the room tonight? So I want that question addressed because for me, I'd like to see a slightly smaller phase one happening more to the north of 4th. And that allows us to try out this new land use designation that we're going to be discussing later tonight in an area that's not right adjacent to our current community. And it just seems more orderly because we do, Stantec said, yes, of course, we have water right now, but we also have a lot of other development applications. So we have to look at every phase as what happens if that stops and it goes on pause for 50 years. I live in a neighborhood that was annexed 50 years ago and it's an acreage, right? So we have to look at each phase very closely and to say, well, if there is no water or sewer capacity for phase 2, where would we be happy phase 1 stopping? So that's my biggest concern. It's no doubt in my mind that I think the residents that do live in that area would prefer residential going in behind to the east of them over commercial or industrial uses. So residential obviously is acceptable in my mind, but why start directly behind them when we have so much land to the north? So if you want to answer that, that'd be great.
Brenda, would you mind going to slide 17? So if I miss a portion of this question, please ask it. I think it's a very good question and it has a very technical answer. There are different, from a water and wastewater servicing perspective, as well as a stormwater perspective, there's requirements to meet as part of any phasing program. And when we look at the first phase within the development, we are looking to establish probably the most expensive part of the phase, which is establishing that first stormwater system. We have to put in, make sure that we have gravity fed sewer. We have to make sure that we are able to contain that development within kind of a single phase, and that we're able to meet and get that phase going and have that momentum with as little infrastructure cost as possible. All the infrastructure and utilities are located just adjacent where the residential development is. And so the phasing is designed in alignment with those catchment areas. And it's designed in alignment with what we can do from a gravity fed perspective and water capacity perspective. And so all of those items were taken into consideration within that, even within that kind of first phase. Even within the first phase, we are developing temporary, I believe they're lift stations that will have to be built and then rebuilt in phase 3 at developers' cost and expense. And so even with that, we are incurring some additional expense in order to be able to connect up to the system. If I were to prioritize, say, phase 3 first, so the northeast corner of the Coles Crossing area, if I were to prioritize that, then I would have to build out all of the infrastructure to get across those lands. I'd have to make sure I have all of those access roads, and I'd have to have a significant amount of investment of access and egress. And also think about how I'm getting those utilities in, so I'm not digging up those roads twice in order to build out the northeast corner instead of the first phase. So the first phase is very deliberate and very, has been very much examined.
I just want to clarify, I'm talking about maybe 30 lots. There's a little dip down on phase 1, and I think your partner probably has an answer. I'm just wondering how critical are those to phase 1, because those are the most obtrusive to the neighbors.
Can I ask if you're referring to the sub-phasing map in map 9 of the ASP? So that's kind of the phase 1A and phase 1B map.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you compare the phase 1A sections of that map to those yellow sections on the servicing map up on the slide there, those are the two key points where the infrastructure connections come in from the existing connections from the town. So in order to develop the rest of the phase, those two connections need to occur first. So
You put up page 22. It's the same one, but it's got the color.
Yeah.
And it shows the phase. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, it's a different package.
Yeah, I'm looking at the, sorry.
slide 48.
Slide 48.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Yeah, that's closer. It just shows the Diamond Crescent area there. And then, so along that one section, yeah, Brett.
Yeah, so in large part, I mean, it's Kaiser lands haven't been developed, which is the biggest portion to the west. And so when you look at the bottom of phase 1, although there's development there, it's not a massive part of development in phase 1. The majority of the development is next to vacant land. The pink at the top, just so that people are aware, is the light industrial that I spoke to Jack about earlier. That'll be happening at obviously the furthest north. But we're looking at the Maplewood, about half of those residents would be impacted by phase 1, and then obviously phase 2, the more southern portion of Maplewood would be impacted. If that helps.
Makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, administration is supportive of the phasing as presented to accommodate the basically minimum effective dose of infrastructure that we need to get it off the ground in order to accommodate sufficient looping, stormwater management, these type of things. Or understand and support about the phasing as presented. And we don't, we want the infrastructure to function at go, and we don't want to add unnecessary infrastructure that we will potentially have to maintain in the future that isn't developed upon if all of a sudden the market crashes. And I've worked in municipalities where they have infrastructure on the ground rotting. So I think that it's a wonderful approach that's been presented.
Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right time to mention it, so you can shut me down, Mayor. We talked about the 6.2 per acre, where the new MDP will be 9.7 units per acre. And in the original draft MDP, our consultants recommended close to 13 units per acre. And that's quite a lot of density. Now, what we heard continually was like that's just going to change our community. That's just going to be unrealistic. Well, unfortunately, the inflationary pressures on supplies and infrastructure replacement have just increased like crazy over the last 5 years. So we go with the density that we have currently. in 30 years' time, we're gonna be way behind the 8 ball in our infrastructure reserves. It's not gonna be there. So that is why we're considering having a higher density. Will it change the character? That's where we have to be careful with architectural control so it doesn't. And that's where we have to be with the design, working with the planner. So these are the challenges council's facing. And why we have to be considerate moving forward for the long-term interest, so that we actually are maintaining facilities properly with the infrastructures we have.
Thank you, Jonathan. Just want to point out one other thing too, in regard to what Jessica and Allison mentioned, the tie-in point. Black Diamond Council committed, I think in 2019, 2020, the looping of the water main, and that was all in preparation for future development. So that's an essential key point. Tying in that water creates that full flow, the full ability to shut down sections and still service residents, right? So that was a huge $1 million investment in the future growth, the Kaiser lands as well as the annex limits. So just want to point that out as well. Hazel.
At the last open house, there was talks about the traffic along 4. Will 6 be extended past 4th? Because that will be a new road, correct? Sorry. Sorry about that. Through the mayor, to Councillor Martin. The road, the West Boundary Road will extend as the phasing progresses. And so, yes, it will extend till 4th. It will.
So for phase 1, it won't go, pardon me,
It won't go down as far as 4th. Is that correct? It will go down as, for phase 1, it will go down all the way to 4th and potentially beyond it.
okay. And then you're gonna be also closing off that 402, right? That's a county road. Yeah, so now the traffic is gonna have to come slow down 6. Yeah, onto Highway 7.
Yeah.
And then they'll have to go into a county road, right, of 140th.
Once it's built up. That's not fun. That's not until it's done.
The TIA, that's the 402, that northern road, the TIA does recommend, but it's close between 6th Street and kind of our middle proposed road there, and it loops around onto 144th Street. Yeah, so that is recommended in the TIA.
And that's what the county has.
Yeah, but Councillor Martin, that may not occur in phase 1. That may be a future consideration for phase 3. It will depend on when we get to subdivision. That's when the roads are addressed and the size of the road right of way are addressed. So at this time, the roads in an area structure plan, we've planned them out. We understand generally where they'll be.
It's like a potential.
It's a potential. So the road right of way actually gets set at the subdivision stage. And when we get into detailed design, we'll be looking at fire access limits and, turnarounds and other things in collaboration with other stakeholders like Foothills County to be able to make sure that we can meet all of the requirements.
Yeah, okay. No, I just wanted clarification because there was some concern brought up, especially on the traffic on their street getting into phase 1. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, council. Any further questions at this time? Yeah, I just referenced page 91 of the agenda is the letter from Foothills County. They do bring up traffic concerns. And I believe, when you look at phase 1, 2, 3, and how that's all going to tie together, keeping in mind that you're looking at 5, 10, 15-year window. These are all negotiable points that can easily be solved. And a lot of them very well could make it smoother. So far as what it looks like now is what it's going to be when we get there. That's $5. Yes. I think those are all valid and easily sat down with the MD and discussed, come up with a solution. So it's a good letter. It's on page 91. if anyone wants to read the agenda and check that out. I would also, before I go on to the next portion, ask one more time if council has any questions to the presenter or staff, any clarity on the presentation with this stuff. Heather?
Oh, I'm good.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on. Oh, sorry, Jessica, yes, please.
I just wondered if you wanted me to answer.
Oh, the MFYA? Yes, municipal financial impact. Yes, could you answer that, please? Or just speak to it?
Sure. So the municipal fiscal impact assessment was done on the previous submission of the area structure plan, which looked at essentially about, I would say it was about 20% of the lands was indicated as commercial. And just as a update to that, that indicated that the fiscal impact analysis would move the town's commercial, non-residential commercial assessment to about 20% of their total assessment value. With this new update, the area of lands that are now have commercial potential is 50%. So 50% of this land area has the ability to be commercial. And we know that because commercial does collect a higher value of assessment than residential lands, this then would push that, not, we can make a safe assumption that that would push that to closer to what would be a sustainable target of 70-30.
Thank you. And again, that's the pink area, that's to the north, that's all the commercial areas. Okay.
I just have one more question.
Go ahead.
Just the potential for people to use 6th Street coming down and over into the current 4th Ave over to avoid the traffic light at the SO. Is that at all because I live on that time, I'm often coming from Okotoks and down out the south side town like that. Is that going to be a concern? I do recognize that it is actually going to be a benefit to the people that do live up by the water tower. To get to Okotoks, you will be quicker coming on your new road. But do we have any concern with people using it as a way to get out of a ring road around of downtown?
The mayor to Councillor Holiday. I think this might be a joint answered question. I think at detailed design, there can be an examination of potential modifications to the road right of way that can ensure that, shortcutting is maybe minimized or vehicles are slowed down. And we can look at that at we go into subdivision and then we start looking at construction design once the subdivision is approved. And we can look at, what happens at that intersection, and maybe there is some sort of collaboration or partnership that we can do at that time to look at what is the best for the community overall. I'll pass it over to Carrie and see if she agrees.
Thank you.
Yeah. Traffic calming measures, this is often dictated by council. And I think that that's where we would need to step in and make some decisions with the residents of the newly developed community and the residents that currently live in Maplewood. We've had a lot of conversations with residents around both schools. We've implemented different types of traffic calming measures like the radars. We put a couple up around town, although people tend to make fun of them. They seem to be working. And I look forward to hearing from CPO Hogan and potentially our Fire Chief TJ this fall about some of the data that those traffic calming measures have collected. So I'll leave it, Carrie, as any final things, but ultimately those measures are going to come down to us.
Thank you, Mayor Crane. We have active applications open on I'm going to likely referred to as North Kaiser and South Kaiser, the two largest landholders in that area structure plan. They have open files right now. They're seeking to move towards land use and subdivision. In the Kaiser area structure plan, we see multiple north-south connections. There's going to be a lot of demand at 6th and Highway 7, Center Ave, which was identified many years ago in the offsite levies bylaw. So at some point, whoever triggers that with their subdivision will be putting in a light. So if you're trying to avoid one light, you're just gonna go to the next light. I think is probably my just very practical answer to that.
Facts. Yeah, we love facts. All right, council, last one. Then we're gonna go to the public hearing. Okay, here we go. So. Yes, go ahead. Absolutely.
Jessica, for clarification, you said 50% is going to be employment lands, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that for phase 1 through 3 or is that 1 through 5?
It's at the total area structure plan area.
Okay, so 1 through 3.
So it's an assumption. So we came back with this new area structure plan
Yeah.
based on the assumption that the council was hoping to add additional employment plans in their MDP. If that moves forward, then this would be 50.
So that population would include the future urban development area as potential future.
And just remind you, use the microphone, just because whispers, see Andy's here and Andy is so like, what'd you say? All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna move on to you now. So you're gonna have an opportunity to come up to your microphone. So quick one, persons addressing council should state your name and your address when you come to the microphone. Indicate you are first speaking on behalf of yourself, on behalf of a client, a company, or a group of citizens, a club or an organization, and may state how they are affected by the bylaw, either good or positive, or negative or positive. Council may ask questions of each speaker following your presentation. So if we want clarity on your question or concern, just stay at the microphone until you finish the answer. You have 5 minutes. Highly doubt anyone's gonna come up with a question in the last 5 minutes, but I will then divert your question to either the developer or staff or council, depending on what it is. I have a list. As you came in, you could sign. We have opposed and in favor. So I'm gonna go through my list first. Then I will open it up to people on the floor who actually want to pose a question based on what you've heard. After we wrap that up, we're gonna flip the page and we're gonna have another session where you can ask questions again based on new information that you might have heard. I'm pretty sure you're gonna have heard all the information at this point. This presentation is done. The administration is done, so now it's over to you. So with that being said, our first item up for business is Jack again. Or is your question answered? If you have another question, by all means, microphone's yours.
Thank you, Mayor Crane. My question wasn't answered, which is fine. Cost benefit analysis takes into account, the impact on the infrastructure that's already in damage here, takes into account any more staff we have to hire, any possible equipment we have to hire, just in general. And it's not going to be black and white. There's going to have to be some assumptions. But it basically tells you within the next 5 or 10, 15 years, this development, going ahead with the commercial property, if it goes forward, I mean, you have to make the assumption, is it going to be negative on the taxes or not? And just a question, I think the people would probably like to know if somebody's thought of it and gone through, and it's a number of gymnastics thing you have to do, but gone through it to say, is taxes going to go up on this or not? So anyways, thank you again. And thank you.
Carrie's gonna go first from a legal perspective, and then you can have a stab at it. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yes, thank you. So Nichols was taken on from Quantum Place at their expense to do the municipal financial impact assessment. They did numerous interviews with our staff. Every manager, I think, was interviewed by them, and even some non-management staff. They looked at our financials, they looked at public information, they dug into staffing, they dug into how many vehicles we need, they dug into so many levels. They have their assumptions in their document. I think that for the most part, they're reasonable. It was a 25-year projection, correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica, 25-year projection, which accounts predominantly for the input of the infrastructure and then assumes with some assumptions on tax rates, if the development will be able to sustain itself in terms of that maintenance. And the result of that MFIA from the previous version, which was much more heavily residential in its split. So again, we would assume that would be better moving forward, was a negligible or positive tax input into the town. So we don't have significant concerns from that perspective at this time.
You can just.
So to answer the gentleman's question, the report says that your taxes will go down.
Didn't hear that from the counselor.
The report said on page 29 of 31.
There you go. All right. I will say this, or I'll go to Cindy. Cindy, go ahead.
The problem, sorry, I think the problem is that municipal financial impact assessment was in our previous package and it wasn't in this package. So if some people have just come in for this public hearing, they would have missed it. But we had the guy because I remember drilling him about all the amortization and all the questions at that public hearing. So yeah, even I was satisfied, but I'm not brave enough to say your taxes will go down. I don't know.
That's exactly. So, no, just from an infrastructure point of view, right? We have pipes in the ground that are absolutely failing. So we build new, you're not gonna have to service a new community for 10, 15, 20 years. The tax base that comes from that development can be invested into the horrible state of affairs underneath some of our roads. So that's the cost benefit, right? So you're taking that cash, you're putting it into this bad pipe, boom, now we got a good pipe. That pipe is now 20 years out. So it's a progression, no doubt about it. It's no easy equation, but the basis is there, it's good. And Cindy is our numbers girl, she grilled their engineer pretty hard, so. But yeah, that is the difference between this package and the last. The last one had an impact assessment on 5 phases. We removed 4 and 5, so now we're just looking at 1, 2, and 3. So that same assessment doesn't capture the exact same conversation. So it couldn't be put into this package. So if you look at the last one, you'll actually see that. Yeah, there's one business setting. Okay. Next on our list is Tim Robertos. There you go, sir.
Tim Roberts, I'm on Diamond Crescent. I've already submitted my objections to this proposal in writing. They were fairly detailed. I'm still not convinced by this revision that anything has really changed. The fundamental nature of this division is to bring a Calgary-style development into Calgary, or into Black Diamond, make a third community that we do not need, and it will not solve infrastructure problems. And if anything, it will only exacerbate the problems we have with getting water and sewer to future developments in Diamond Valley. So I would urge you to say no again.
Thank you. No real question, good statement, totally valid. I would say that we just finished a $21 million upgrade to our sewage treatment plant, which doubles our capacity. So there is that. There is the dedicated infrastructure of waterways and tie-ins. There is that. And as I just stated, future development goes into old development. But that's okay. Good statement. Thank you for your concern. Mary Stollery. Mary.
In Valley Ridge Place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I thank council for having these public hearings. I've been at each of them. The last one, nobody spoke in favour of Cox Crossing. I hope council takes that into consideration. I know council wants to build trust with our community. But I went to the draft municipal development plan, and I've been reading that, and I'm wondering why council is thinking of approving something until they finalise the draft municipal development plan, because I thought it was a very good plan, and I'd like to quote from it if that's okay. So it says, council must align their decision making, including budgeting and land use decisions, with the municipal development plan. This would be the new one. It also says, while developers initially fund new infrastructure, the town eventually bears the maintenance and replacement costs through property taxes. Keep all in mind. There are two key elements linked to land use decision making. One, attracting and increasing a non-residential tax base that generates greater revenue per hectare than residential and generally has less demand on infrastructure services. Two, capitalise on existing infrastructure rather than developing new infrastructure, which means utilising existing land with access to services, particularly housing. This is in the section on number 3. Recognition that the town is not in a financial position to take on new infrastructure costs from greenfield development and has limited water capacity must accompany decision-making for the building of new homes and be regularly monitored closely by the town. In the growth strategy and land use section, growth strategy prioritises fiscally responsible development that aligns with community values. I guess the community values would be what you've heard from people who have concerns. Talks about enabling smaller lots or different housing forms creates an opportunity to capitalise on existing infrastructure while obtaining revenue without the need for new infrastructure. The guiding principles of the town's growth strategy are prioritising the development of infill areas, particularly on vacant lands, to capitalise on the existing infrastructure resources. Encouraging remediation of brownfield lands to enable redevelopment of existing serviced lands that can add vibrancy to these areas. Encouraging a mixture of land uses in infill areas where appropriate to address housing needs and business opportunities. Embracing the community's desire for maintaining small town scale through implementation of sensitive urban design initiatives. So I kind of thought Cox Crossing would be on hold until this is all approved. Talks about contaminated lands. Redeveloping brownfield sites can have significant benefits. It can bring new life to unused land and capitalise on existing infrastructure, reducing the need to develop greenfield lands. So I thought this would all be considered first before looking at new development. The town will clearly communicate how resident feedback will inform decision making during public engagement. Section 4. The town is committed to rebuilding a trusting relationship with its residents. And you've heard a lot of concerns, so I think that's part of the trust building, is to address those concerns, take them into account. So it talks about development charges and off-site levies. While development charges are essential in funding initial infrastructure for growth, they do not cover long-term maintenance, requiring careful evaluation of new greenfield development to avoid future financial strain. So the guiding principles of the town's growth strategy are prioritizing the development of infill areas, particularly on vacant lands, to capitalize on existing infrastructure resources. Encouraging remediation of brownfield lands to enable redevelopment of existing serviced lands that can add vibrancy to these areas. Enabling sufficient land for the long-term growth of business, light industrial, commercial, employment uses that will provide long-term net positive property taxes. Embracing the community's desire for maintaining small town scale through implementation of sensitive urban design initiatives. Seems to me Culture Crossing is quite a large development, having quite a large number of people. A flex planning area is an undeveloped future planning area, so I've seen that in the plan. The town has sufficient room within its current infill areas to support anticipated population growth, and the priority focus of the town is growing its non-residential tax base. I thought it was a very good plan. Infill development. Infill is a fiscally responsible alternative to growing outward in undeveloped greenfield sites. First, it efficiently capitalizes on existing infrastructure capacity, such as roads, utilities, public services, where the majority of municipal funding is directed, reducing the need for costly new infrastructure investments that the town would be responsible for maintaining and servicing. Secondly, it helps to preserve natural landscapes and agricultural lands by limiting urban expansion into these areas. That struck me. I thought, well, what is Culture Crossing doing? So the objectives of infill development is to encourage development or redevelopment on infill areas, such as on vacant lands, to prioritize the use of existing infrastructure. That seemed to be a recurring theme, prioritize existing infrastructure. And talking about water, to service all developable vacant lands within the town, it is anticipated that the town will eventually require an additional water license capacity and treatment capacity. Again, this volume will largely depend on the types of development, system-wide demands, and treatment technology available. Finally, it says allocation of existing wastewater capacity should be primarily used for infill and redevelopment of existing built areas where existing capacity exists. And the final point, the growth strategy and land use concept are intended to guide all future land use decisions made by the town. All subordinate statutory and non-statutory plans and policies must align with the municipal development plan and demonstrate alignment with the land use concept and this MDP. Hence, one of the actions following adoption will be updating other planning documents, such as existing area structure plans and the land use bylaw, to align with the new MDP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. I'm going to go to Councillor Kelly first.
Thank you very much for your comments. One of the big things that council's identified in the last couple of years is exactly that brownfield lands. And one thing that we have found out through the MDP is we don't have that many. And I was going to ask Carrie if you knew the percentage, because we spoke about this before, because I remember being shockingly low about how much brownfield land we had to actually develop within the current town boundaries. If you remember that number.
Through the chair, I don't have the number, but if I may make the comment that redevelopment or development of brownfield lands is highly dependent on those landowners working proactively, collaboratively in a moving forward direction with the town. And if we don't have that buy-in from those landowners, it's very difficult on those parcels.
Awesome, thanks. One of the things that I mentioned to Jack earlier too, in regards to the brownfield lands, is we have a lot of landholders, and why we've decided to tax those landholders more than business owners. not only to help with residential taxes, but also with our current business taxes. And we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. We're a community of 5,400, and there's only so many businesses that are willing to come to our community being that size. And so it's very difficult for council and from an economic development standpoint to get bigger businesses to come here to help offset that residential tax. If we increase the new Colts Crossing ASP indicates, I believe, around 1,200 residents through 1, 2, and 3 phase. We'll get more businesses because there's more people here. So we're stuck as a council. As Mayor Crane indicated, this land is already part of Diamond Valley. It's been annexed. It's our land. It's not like we're looking to go out and purchase this land and then encourage an ASP. It's already in town possession. So do we continue seeing 6 to 10% tax rate increases and stay the same size that we are? Or do we welcome some new developers to build in Greenfield that we currently already own and hopefully get down to a more reasonable inflationary growth rate of 2 to 3% annually and also help with our infrastructure? So we're stuck a little bit with what we can do. We love the small town feel. We hope to maintain and capture that should we approve the ASP tonight. Because none of our minds have been made up, but these are the things that we're juggling right now. Kaiserland's a prime example. It's been ready to build for decades and it has not moved. And that's because the landowner does not want to develop. That's brownfield. We can't encourage that. We looped in the water pipeline to help encourage them to build and said, look, the water's here. We as taxpayers paid for that. Hopefully you guys will come and build. And they said, no, thanks. So what are we, we're not really sure what to do. That helps.
I've got one first and I'll come.
Yeah, I just wanted a quick clarification on what Councillor
Yes, please.
mentioned.
Go ahead.
Kaiserland is not brownfield, it's infill.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Thank you.
That's all right, sorry.
Thank you.
So infill, great segue. Just so everyone's aware on what council has done in the last 2 years since amalgamation, when we talk about infill story, we have approved Regent area for 100 units. Country Meadows and Dunham Lane, 60 units. Morrison Ave, 120 units. This is all infill on the only land available. Diamond Ridge has 120 units. That's phase 3 or phase 2. Phase 2? No, phase 3. No, it's phase 2. Phase 2, Diamond Ridge for 120 units. The golf course has now 21 units of the 1 acre parcels that are presently completed and ready to go up for sale. Plus there's another 58 acres that's going to be proposed. Kaiserland's is probably at 200 units when it's built out. And at the end of Royal Lake Ave, under the land use, the new land use designation R1N, we have another 34 units where previously it was an 8-plex. That's all infill, and that's all to put services through the exact same pipe at zero cost to the taxpayer, which is exactly your point, which I love, because that is the only land that we have that can be done on an infill basis. ConocoPhillips, as he said, you have to have millions of dollars to develop a brownfield. No developers coming in for that. You have to get government agencies, all 3 levels of government, plus investment to do anything with brownfield. So that's not even on the table. And McLean, that's what I mean, right? So to Cindy's point earlier, we're here to discuss, is this the best use for this land? It is a part of the town. It is, what do we do with it? So that's where we're at. So great points. Fantastic. Thank you. Moving on to Paul Sweetland. Paul? I think he might have left at this point. I've seen a couple of people go at the back. All right, if you're here, Paul, you can come back up after. Heather Hemingway. County of Woodlands. Orchard.
Okay, good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. Can everyone hear me all right? My name is Heather Hemingway. I am here before you in my capacity as the Director of Planning with Foothills County. I am here to express the county's concerns with respect to the proposed area structure plan. The proposal before you this evening has impacts on Foothills County. Specifically, the area structure plan proposes to use roads that are located outside of your jurisdiction. The county has been circulated on this area structure plan as well as the previous version, and we have provided our comments and concerns and been very responsive. You can find our letter outlining our concerns within your agenda package. These letters are dated May 12th and reiterating our concerns on June 27th. We had noted concerns that the proposal was planning for use of county roads, but provides no policy in the area structure plan on the development, use, maintenance of this county infrastructure. We have suggested that the developer rectify this policy gap and been very clear about what we wanted, but we were ignored. There is no attempt made by the developer to address our concerns. Now, this does not seem like a very good strategy to me. The developer is proposing obvious detriment to the adjacent municipal jurisdiction, and they've provided no solutions, no policy. In fact, they just don't address it. Now, our request to you respectfully is to consider a motion to refuse the area structure plan. I say this because I believe that granting it first reading has the potential to create quite a few problems, not just for you and the county, but for the developer as well. As you are aware, the existing 2002 intermunicipal development plan, while out of date, is the adopted overarching statutory planning document that pertains to these lands in the area structure plan. Now, if this county area structure plan, Foothills County will request that the dispute resolution protocol as outlined in the intermunicipal development plan be initiated. I would anticipate that this process will likely lead to the initiation of a full-scale intermunicipal development plan review process. If the development of these joint plans requires that we negotiate in good faith, they require a thorough analysis of alternatives. And of course, they require extensive public consultation. Are we able to do that with an area structure plan bylaw on a 2-year clock hanging over our heads? Maybe. I think it makes things harder, and it does not provide the developer with any level of surety. I am confident that the lands subject to the proposed area structure plan will develop. I am also confident that these lands can be developed in a manner that will not cause detriment to the county. Unfortunately, the ASP before you does cause detriment to the county, and the developer chose to ignore that issue. Now, regardless of your decision this evening, I suggest that we ask the chairs of our intermunicipal committee to allow staff to place the topic of the current intermunicipal development plan on the agenda of our next intermunicipal committee meeting. Thank you for your time and your consideration of our request, and I would be pleased to try and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Next intermunicipal is September 12th, I believe. Any questions for council? Heather?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, Allison.
Thanks for the opportunity to respond. So this policy document has gone through a variety of different iterations back and forth. And so different versions of it have been circulated to agencies at different times. And when we have received commentary from the agency through the process, through the town application process, we have done our best to respond to them. So there have been previous versions of what was originally a conceptual scheme and then an area structure plan that did address maintenance and paving and capital investment on 144th Street and other concerns by Foothills, and in various different iterations with back and forth with administration, those policies may have been altered or removed slightly. We are still happy to consider some of those policies if that is the desire to move forward there. But we have seen those comments, and we have endeavored to address them in various different iterations of this policy document.
So what we'll do, while we're still listening to people come forward and speak, we can dig up those policies and suggest them as amending motions if one or other councillors want to take that up.
Thank you. Ms. Hemingway, you mentioned 2 years. Why 2 years?
Because if council chooses to support an area structure plan bylaw, it is active for only 2 years, after which it expires. So we have a municipal election coming up in October. Should we initiate the process for an intermunicipal development plan review, it can take that long. It is a difficult document to do. We've done probably 12 or 15 of them in the last 20 years as Foothills County. And there's a lot of edge now with Diamond Valley. There's a great deal of edge that we need to address. It can take that long. It leaves the developer in limbo while we undertake that work, which is not ideal for them.
Yeah, I think 2 years is more than enough time to get a conversation done. That being said, the intermunicipal committee, which has 12 points of cooperation that need to be done by September, has had 2 years and has achieved 0. So that's interesting, right? That we have absolutely nothing achieved in an intermunicipal collaboration framework committee. So maybe we'd have better work with an IMDP. Maybe. Yeah.
You know, I think we've all wanted to undertake this work for some time. It's been of assistance in a number of jurisdictions that the county does interface with. And I would suggest that it would be of assistance in the interface between our two jurisdictions to update and modernize that document. So we don't end up in situations like this.
Council, any further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Dave McCall, McCall it. Dave. I should have just said Dave or Dave, Bentley the dog, right? All right, Dave, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Dave McCauley. I'm in Country Meadows. In Turner Valley here. My concerns are freshwater, wastewater, energy capture, and taxes on businesses. So first off, I'm actually shocked that nobody, whether it's from the council or the development or whatnot, has talked about water capture coming off our roofs and whatnot. How many houses are supposed to be in the development? That was 1,250 houses or citizens. Okay, so between that and I think it was 460 or 560 that I for your infill. That's 16, 15, 16, 1,700 houses at about I know our system is collecting about 3,600 liters a year that we're not putting through the freshwater treatment system. I'm actually shocked that nobody has said that all new developments for residences should have at least 1,000 liter water capture system to reduce the demand on our freshwater treatment requirements for the entire town. So that's my comment on freshwater. On wastewater, you know, it's not even talked about, but you know, there are a number of systems throughout the world that do the capture and the methane collection and then use the waste as fertilizer. Nobody's ever even mentioned that in anything that I've heard from the town. So that's another thing. And then the fourth thing is taxes on businesses. Being a former business owner, both my wife and I, we moved to the area here out of Calgary after being subject to Mayor Tax Me for however many years he was there. But a business on Elbow Drive in about 92nd Avenue, in the time the fellow had the business, had his business tax go up 12-fold in a 20-year period. And he finally said, the heck with this, I'm out of here. So my comment to the councillors and the mayor is, be careful how much burden you want to put on your businesses, else you'll scare them away. That's my comments.
Thank you, David. I think just to touch base on the water collection, that's all part of the conservation bylaw. Comes in land use. And right now, you know, I've got a little 50-liter one. They used to have 1,000. It's a personal preference. But it does have an area in the conservation bylaw where we can start doing, you know, $50 credit towards buying a 1,000-liter Coke, right? Things we used to have one for toilets. If you bought a low flush toilet, right? So all those water conservation items, Okotoks has got the handbook on it, really. So we can just copy and paste and adopt that as we need.
Barry, okay, thank you. For the numbers that I used there, it would be an approximate unnecessary treatment of about 5.6 million liters just for these, what we're talking about tonight.
Thank you. All right, sir. Thank you. Mary Hayden? Mary Hayde, H-E-Y-D-E, so it looks like. Done. These Lees or Des? These? All right, there you go. These, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Dee Lee. I'm on Royal Avenue, Mayor and council members. Obviously, there's been a lot of concern brought up about all of the additional residents that would be then coming in to our town. And there's been a lot of discussion on businesses, but I wanted to address more also just the recreational facilities. And if that has been considered in this plan. We often have times where the pool is at capacity. We have times where on parade days, there's just no parking. You know, residents had to pool money and fundraise just to have a skate park put in. So I'm wondering if there is any additional consideration for recreational facilities to be considered in a plan such as this. For, you know, if we're going to both the residents that are already here and the potential future residents coming in, because there is already, I feel like just using what we have, we are at our limit as it is. And so creating more opportunities for residential spaces indoor and outdoor is very critical for us at this time.
Great question. I'm going to go to Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, I love recreation. Councillor Kelly and myself are on a local community association, Diamond Valley Community Association, relatively new, where we sit on that association not as members of council, but as residents. One of the key drivers to support recreational facility development is to have that implemented into our offsite levies. There's an offsite levy bylaw, and in order to get there, we have to complete a recreation master plan that shows why we can place a levy or a tax, if you will, on top of developers in view of ongoing and future recreational needs. Unfortunately, we do not have a plan in place. There was one done in 2002 in Turner Valley, well before my time, and it was never implemented as a bylaw. So since 2002 on the Turner Valley side, we failed to collect a dime for offsite levies to be placed towards recreational future needs. That was a miss. The plan was done, but unfortunately was never implemented. Historically, Black Diamond has not had a recreational master plan, and so that is one of the things we need to go forward with. Now, keep in mind, such a plan, if we want to talk dollars, is quite substantial. It's minimal six figures and beyond that to make sure because it has to be justified according to the Municipal Government Act, so that it can't be challenged by developers as to why a levy is being placed. In fact, the town of Canmore just lost significantly in a court case with their developers for incorrectly applying the offsite levy because they didn't have the legislation lined up to actually collect it correctly. So we have to be very cautious in moving forward with that. So Des, long story short, it's definitely on our radar. We do want to make sure it's part of our offsite levy bylaw, but we have to first do the recreational master plan so that it aligns legislatively.
We're gonna go to Heather and then Brendan. Heather, go ahead.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon, just to make a correction. Yes, you're absolutely correct. There was a recreational master plan on the table in front of Turner Valley Council that didn't get passed. But at that time, we weren't allowed to collect recreation offsite levies. That has only come into play in the last, I'm going to say, 5 years. So that is one of the policies that we're looking at having to develop going forward when we redo our offsite levy bylaws.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Gordon, we have to do the MDP first, right? So, the MGA gives us very strict guidelines, and as much as, because I didn't know, so I said, let's do the recreational master plan right now. And CAO Davey was like, no. And I was like, come on, let's do it right now. And he's like, we're not allowed. And I said, well, look at all the new, like, we got to get the MDP done. And to give you some perspective on that, it's taken us well over 18 months from probably start to finish to complete the MDP. And then it's going to take another year to start, depending on what we do next, to do the master rec plan. And these, like as Councillor Gordon mentioned, are six-figure documents that require probably a minimum 12 months to do. So we are likely at best, to be honest, probably a decade from completing all of these plans in order, because you can only do so many at a certain time because you need the supporting document from the previous one to support the next one. So again, a challenge for us, but Des, it's, you know, I've got two young kids and they use the skate park every day. We use the pool, we're members of the pool. And I share your concerns. It's overwhelming to be at the pool most days, especially when it's more than 20 degrees outside. But just on the note of the pool is that's on an expiring life cycle too. We don't have very much life left in that pool, so we'll be looking to replace, and pools are expensive. And what are we gonna do? Who wants to go up 15% because we want to put a new pool in 1 year? Again, we're trying to balance. New residents would bring in a good deal of tax revenue for us to support, and we would actually have more people to use. Of course, we wouldn't build a pool that size, we build one bigger, so that it can be supported by all of our residents. So these are things, we have a lot of things in our community. Our rink is going through a major upgrade right now, a new ice plant. And the pool's going to be next on the table. You know, do we keep a pool? We're going to have a conversation like this and say, who's got the appetite? You know, what businesses are going to step up and help us support a new pool? Do we have to put a big ATCO sign on the front? I would do it. YMCA, doesn't matter. But we need to find those partnerships, and we need to start having those conversations. And that's why Councillor Gordon and I are sitting on this newly formed committee to start exploring those. We've started to look at rec centers, but to give you an idea of some of them that we've looked at, a new rec center with one flat of ice, a pool, and like a gym and a shared space, you're upwards of $60 million plus. And that's just the reality where we are right now. And that's not going down. The prices will not go down. So
yeah, another thing, if I could just add on to this cost. The town of Edson just had theirs approved for a new pool, 2 ice rinks, a curling rink, and a small gymnasium. And they just had to go back to council to have the budget increased. Anybody guess how much that cost? Nearly 80. It actually had just come back to council for an increase to their budget, pushing $87 million. And they were able to get some matching funds from the federal government and the provincial government, but the tax burden upon the town is incredible. So just put that on a burden of 5,500 people, coming up with say 40 million. That's a huge, that's much greater than a 15% increase. You can just research the town of High River on what that has done. So we have these documents that we need to get in order so that we fund them correctly. And this council is working diligently with administration, understanding capacity and what order we have to get these plans in place as a town of Diamond Valley.
Thank you. Pat Lathrop. I butcher your last name every time I say it. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Mike's yours.
Hello, I'm Pat Lothrop. I live on Diamond Crescent, Mayor and councillors and neighbors. I'm not completely opposed to growth. I think that you can't stop it. There's people out there, they need a home. The prices here are ridiculous, and if we have more, then we'll share in that. I just want to say that I hope it can be done well with nice architectural controls and nice side yards, but that's way more in the subdivision plan, I think, those details. 4th Avenue is a concern, and the comments, I appreciate that people are hearing what we're afraid of. The density slides that were shown kind of shocked me. The difference between 6 and 9 units an acre is like, is terrible. And I'd like to see more examples of existing communities like Darcy Ranch or whatever is their density and what is the MDP that we're proposing going to look like. I don't really have anything else, but just wanted to say you do it right. And thank you. I understand there's a lot of issues involved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate that. Yeah, some of the slides, they do shock you when you see them. The ones that we looked at last house were even more dense. It was quite shocking, right? But it's the architectural controls that really feather the edges, right? If you look at Canmore, they do a very good job in certain areas. For me, some of the roads are a little too narrow, but I've always harped on the width of the roads. So I'll go to Councillor Gordon and then
Just
move back.
Just super quick, Pat, if you can get me your email address, and for anybody interested as well, in our MDP steering committee, we've had different diagrams and different visuals presented to us to show the units per acre and what that actually looks like. So, and I, make sure you get it.
Yeah, excellent. All right, moving forward. Those were the people that wrote their names down and listed. Has anyone been inspired to stand up and ask a question that you may have thought of now? There you go. Hop up. Name, address.
My name is Holly Bain, and I live on 3rd Street Southwest, right in the hospital. River Grid got it right. I am an avid walker and bike rider. That is one of the cheapest ways that you can keep fit. You don't have to buy a big skating rink or a pool. It's open 24/7. Are there walking paths in there? There are.
Yep.
Because I didn't notice any. It's hard to see on that screen. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Give me the line. They totally agree.
Speak to that.
I heart.
Yeah, do you want me to speak to that a little bit more?
You know what? No, give it.
Sure, okay. If you could
Because it is hard to see on the.
So it's quite small, so we'll try to show some maps. It's still working, but, oops, where am I in the slides? Bear with me for a second. If we could go to slide 49. So there is a map 11 proposed in the ASP that shows the active transportation plan. So yeah, sorry, on slide 49 there. So that's the map on the right here. Hard to see, I know. To the map on the right, if possible. So, yeah, you can see the orange arrows are informal park paths. There's obviously sidewalk connections as well. And then those kind of burgundy red pathways would be multi-use pathways. You'll see that they're not in great detail right now because we're at the ASP level, but again, at subdivision application, we would be getting into the nitty-gritty details and detailed design of what those paths look like, how they connect. Are they paved? Are they gravel? You know, what's kind of the goal and the vision of those pathways?
Yeah, the visual is just really poor, because it's just so small. But all of the streets, all of the local streets are showing sidewalks. And then there are deliberate connections through the blocks to make it more walkable and to give looping patterns and other optional amenities. So through the parks, looping around the ponds, sidewalks in the streets, pathways in the parks. So there's complete street network of walking and biking options. Yes.
Can you ride your bike from the part of that neighborhood to downtown without going on a street? Can you go to the hospital? Can you go to the post office? All these places are really great if you can bike. But I don't see any connectivity between this neighborhood and anything else.
Okay, Carrie.
Thank you. I really appreciate those comments. I think that that's some of the feedback that we've heard through the municipal development plan. There is one last hurrah on August 5th that our consultant is hosting. Alternatively, planning at diamondvalley.town. We are still taking feedback before we finalize the draft of the municipal development plan for first reading. If things like sidewalks on both sides of the street are very important to you, we need to know that so that council can know that and possibly create policy for that moving into the future to ensure that future developments such as this are held to that standard.
Planning at diamondvalley.town.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And yes, pathways, connectivity, it's been on everybody's docket. This has connectivity in itself, because this is what we're looking at. The old part of town that doesn't have it is something that council of the future have to invest in finding their way through. So Friendship Trail is almost looped, right? You gotta kind of trespass a bit on golf course land, but you can make it. So it's been an issue, but it's not impossible. This needs money. Greg, let's go to you.
Greg Byer, John Street, sorry. I support the development and I really compliment town council and so the slow measured progress of these meetings. I think it's been excellent for informational purposes. I'm going to put my firefighter hat on for a minute. And it was drummed into us that houses burned down in 6 minutes. I was also reminded and informed by my policeman friend that back alleys are for emergency vehicles. So I have an interest in fires, and what happens typically is once a house is on fire, and by the way, new houses are made from a lot of oil products. So it's not just one house that burns, it's several. So I don't see anything for. I was quite concerned when there was the fire in the Field Hill west of AG Foods. And I was waiting for that fire to jump the road and go for those $1 million homes or even AG Foods. I was timing and the fire truck took 15 minutes from Okotoks. I'm not hearing anything about back alleys, further fire remediation, enlargement or building of fire departments or anything, fire halls. And that's my question.
I'm gonna go to Carrie on that one because TJ's not here. Fire, what is the name of our little levy that we can get on that one? Fire service. Anyway, Carrie, go ahead. You know it.
So we have a fire master plan and it will require some additional studies to look at further potential investment by council into our fire services. With regards to the built form, buildings are required to meet building code. Under the building code, there are fire setback requirements or engineering standards that are in place. That comes in at development permit when the house is being built. We do make builders aware of that far in advance to meet those safety code requirements.
Alleys,
Follow up, Greg?
alleys.
Alleys? We have alleys?
So with regards to new development, alleys again are one of those kind of merits and drawbacks on both sides. There are some alleys in different areas of the proposed plan. To my understanding, and Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, it's there to accommodate different building forms as was requested by the town, to accommodate different people in different stages of life, different incomes, etc. The reason that we don't lane every product is because not everybody wants a lane. Lanes are expensive to maintain, they're expensive to put in. They often degrade faster because of the materials that they're built out of. And if you don't make them gravel, then you have to pave them and then you have to account for the maintenance of the pavement. So again, it's a bit of a double-edged sword to have all laned product.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Jess.
Just to, I guess, add to Carrie's commentary, I think, she's correct. The lane product is not a fire access per se. The carriageway of the road needs to have, I believe it's 7 meters clear in order for the Bonto to come and put their stabilizers down. But, I believe it's called stabilizers. And so the road right of way and the carriageway has to accommodate the requirements of fire safety. And those are built in within kind of your engineering standards and how that road right of way is set.
Thank you. Anything further?
Yeah, there's nothing said about increased firefighters.
Got 40.
Yeah, but Barry, they're a volunteer, like people work, right? That's the problem with volunteers. So again, I was, my question is, why was the fire truck then coming from Okotoks for that field fire west of AG Foods? We didn't have any of our own fire trucks upon first arrival. They were coming from Okotoks.
Are you talking about 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Yes. It's not actually in our town.
Hello, yeah.
Heather?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that was on MD land, so with the joint agreements that we all have, I think that possibly could be why so many fire trucks showed up for that fire. And we have joint service agreement with the MD, and then Okotoks quite often will attend larger fires if need be.
And that was 3 years ago. So since then, we have got one chief, we've got 2 full-time deputy chiefs. We have 40 full-time volunteers who are absolutely dedicated. And if you've watched any of the Facebook posts, you'll see that we do outstanding work. We've got a partnership with Eden Valley to help them as well. So I have full confidence in their firefighters. And if this expands in any direction, as I already listed over 600 units of infill, that comes with these challenges as well. And I fully support their ability to take that out. Just, yeah, well,
The municipal fiscal impact assessment that was submitted on the previous area structure plan, it is still a support for this area structure plan. So it is, I would say it's more conservative. It estimated 2 things. It estimated 3 new FTEs for fire. And it also anticipated a new fire station is expected in 2027 for 15 million using a 20-year debenture and an interest rate of 4.92%. Fire truck replacement is estimated in 2029. And that is still making the development, it is still a net positive to the town. And so now we've reduced the amount of residential and increased the amount of commercial. It does consider those expenditures, but the analysis of when that would be included in an offsite levy, that still needs to be determined.
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. All right.
Hi, I'm Heather. I guess I was up in Maplewood area and now I'm going to be downtown. And I am not a public speaker, so please bear with me. I just want to thank council, especially for the work that I've heard going into this. All of the surveys and the meetings that we've seen, I've always been asked am I for or against, which always makes me hesitate because most of the time and most of the people I've heard of, we don't have a for or against. So when you do those surveys, please have a undecided. I started out here and at the last town council or town meeting undecided. I am now for the process. What I've heard today is that there are a lot of legitimate concerns. I think you've all addressed, and I want to thank the presenters as well. I think you've addressed all of them the best way you can. Nerves. What I'm hearing is in between the lines. It's like we have a lot of concerns as a town, but many of them aren't about this particular development. You're just kind of the lightning rod, a lot of them. And you've had to bear that as well. So thank you for your patience and thank you for trying to address those and be patient with all of our emotions. So things like the fire department, how much there is, things like where we're developing when, yes, the MVP, if I'm getting my terms right, is prioritizing infills. That's only good if there's people who want to build in the infills and the people who want to sell to people who want the infills. So what my takeaway from this is that as much as possible, the presenters have said, we're going to give the final say on everything to the town through the NDP. Am I correct in that? For the most part?
Yeah, they've left it flexible, addressing the proposed draft at every turn.
So the bottom line is, if we give the green light to them, then we, through the council, still have a say. It's not like there's going to be shovels in the ground tomorrow. And it's not like they're going to steamroll over everything that we have a concern about tomorrow. We can still have talks with the town, with council, expressing these concerns about the details. So we're talking about the big picture of whether to develop or not, whether to let them work on their development or not. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I am for this proposal and I hope the council approves it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing worse than getting up and getting the jitters. I know exactly what it's like, Heather. So, Dave, go ahead.
I'm a little short.
Addressing it.
Dave McCauley, I'm in Country Meadows. I just forgot one whole piece of my little blurb when I came up here. Energy capture for in the design of the placement of the houses. If it is possible to have the long roof lines so that one side faces the south side, it's best for energy capture for any photovoltaic system.
Come on, man. And stand back. Go ahead.
Doug Lothrop, Air Green Council, thank you. I too, like Heather, have you shooters. I just want to know one question. If this development is so good, Why are they not inviting people to come to their development by having infrastructure built in, like fire departments, like playgrounds? They are going to be there, I understand. But if you want to draw people here to your development, I think you need to put your arms out a little wider for the public coming in. And by doing that, you'll enhance this small town community. You'll enhance the people who come through the door to feel welcome coming here. So you have to invite them. You can't just say we've got a house to buy. You have to bring them in for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I think that comes in more marketing stage field if you wish, right? Yeah. So we don't even have names of subsections. That doesn't even get the vote here, right? So
Those amenities.
all right, yeah. There you go. So totally hear you on that, Doug. Anyone else in the audience for or against? Yeah, come on.
My name is Kata Milas. I live on 436 First Avenue Southeast. I spoke at the last meeting. I was present, as was, I believe, 200 residents, if that's correct. I don't know how to say this, but I'll try my best. I guess, like, having a new public hearing 2 months after seems a bit rushed to me. Especially when you had zero support from the last meeting and several concerns. I feel like this is still being rushed through without honoring and respecting everyone's concerns. Just as the same as when there was a question at the beginning of this meeting. I understand, council, you may have found it a bit insulting that people may have questioned if you have any. Yeah, well, and ties with the, it's a valid question, but still, there is some insult there. I can't help, at the same sense for myself, I find a little bit of insult that this is just coming again 2 months after, during summer break, where we have a significant decrease in people attending, not being able to, and being the off season. So I guess I would say I really find it disappointing if you guys went through with this now. It would kind of feel like it was skirted through and under the community's nose. I feel that, I understand that this is within reason for them, but it doesn't feel like it's within reason, for the community. And something maybe again in September would be more respected. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick one on that. How long have we been in this process? Since 2001?
The applications were submitted in 2021. So we have had back and forth with the town since then. And in terms of engagement, we agreed on an engagement strategy as part of the terms of reference in 2021 and have been engaging since 2022.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the concern though, which brings me to my other point before I go to Ted. I did want to just do a quick apology because I did already have that in the back of my head. It wasn't and that's why I referenced Councillor Gordon. It wasn't a mayoral answer I gave because I took great insult to 12 years of civic duty to be accused of things. And so I have no trouble calling a spade a spade. That's why people elected me, because I don't take any BS and I call it what it is. So I own that, but I wouldn't apologize to Ms. Hemingway for my shortness. The MD comes with a valid concern. They've written it down twice. And our negotiations with the MD are very, very sharp, very edgy, as she said. And I might come off edgy in this anyway, so I apologize to her for that. She's not the vessel that needs to take that negativity from me, for sure. Because we have a lot of information, a lot of things on the go with all kinds of communities. And so we get to these decisions after 4 years of discussion. Like, we have been at this for 4 years. So we as council, it's our job as elected officials to do the background work, to ask the tough questions, to hear the tough questions, to take them into consideration and still make tough decisions. So altogether, you know, you guys see a small bit, we see a lot. You know, and you don't get to see a lot of that, but that's why you put us in these positions, so that we, being the trusted elected officials, make those decisions. And when it comes to election, you get to make those decisions again. So I thank you for all your considerations and all your input, because it is valid and it does weigh on us, and it's not easy decisions for us. So I just wanted to address that, and Ms. Hemingway again apologize. Ted Bain.
Ted Bain, 3rd Street Southwest. I'm in support of aspects of this plan. I'm also very opposed to aspects of the plan. However, Councillor Holliday said it very well at the beginning. It is not the town's land. It belongs to someone else. It will be developed. The town has to develop in order to stay alive. The question is, how will this development or any development proceed? And if it is approved tonight, I hope that we could count on council, this council, future councils, to make certain through area controls, through various approvals, that it meets what we really want. It will be developed. The land will be developed. It's a question of how. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. That is absolutely correct. It's just what goes there. It's just a matter of time. But back to the public. Again, for or against, the microphone is there. It's all yours. Going once. For or against? Yeah, I think everyone did speak. All right. Going twice. My next page, and 3rd time's a charm. Last chance, last call for alcohol. Anyone want to get up? For or against? Very good. Okay. Well, I do have another opportunity. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing. So moving on. So now with new information in hand, I will now ask if any person, either online or in person, wishes to address any new information provided at this hearing. Council may ask you further questions, so please stay at the microphone after you post your question, name and address. There you go. So Jack, you're up.
Jack Kulis, 527 Country Meadows Way, don't ask me to post code. Municipal Fiscal Development Plan. That's the name of the plan that was in the first, right? Where would I be able to find that?
No, you're talking about the MFA, the Municipal Financial Impact Assessment.
Correct, sorry.
So, get us, you can reach out to the planning department and we'll make sure we get you a copy.
Wonderful.
Probably on the website. Planning at diamondvalley.com.
Okay, perfect. And Councillor Jonathan, it always hurts when somebody questions your integrity. And you mentioned about the whole amount of books of policies that are in place. And that's all good and great. But what I found is you can have all the policies you want, but unless an audit is done once in a while to ensure things are following, people can get judgmental about it. So just audits aren't a bad thing. You know, it just makes people stay in line. Anyways, thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? For or against, wishing to pose your view or question to council? Or undecided, as we've learned. Well, going once. Going twice. In favor or against? The microphone's right there. Anyone online, Verna, wanted to ask you a question? That's got up, all There she goes. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, Pat Lothrop, I'm present. Talking about recreation centers and art centers, we're talking about art centers, but I'd like to throw that in there. And the acreage assessments for recreational levies being unavailable. Is there a chance perhaps that the developer might sponsor a new building for us or put some money up front for it, even though they don't have to?
Recreational bylaw, right?
Bill, she's asking voluntary donation.
Oh,
Yeah, because we don't have the recreational.
yes.
And I was talking about, you know,
That's,
open the doors, do something to get to.
I was going to be right there.
this is where, and one of the main reasons we brought forward the idea, because residents in our community approached me and said, what should we do? We want recreational facilities, we need the funding. The best mechanism, a complete nonprofit, separate from the town. So the Diamond Valley Community Association, one of the things we'll be looking to do is do fundraising with different developers, oil and gas legacy, all of these different things within our community. It's going to take some work, but Brendan and I are more than willing to fundraise on behalf of the association. It's set up already. We've got our CRA number. We've got our nonprofit association number. We've just not got the mechanisms in place to start the fundraising. But as soon as we do, we'll be knocking on doors and making calls.
Thank you. I just point out, when it does come to recreation, you know, you gotta give a huge hat to volunteers. And we have a guy, Ian Penhaligan, who came to council 6 months ago with a desire to build this golf course. Cost us $10,000 in some staff time and a bit of equipment. That thing is just hotcakes.
It didn't even cost a town a dime. He raised almost $20,000.
So there you go.
So
it's
been money.
Volunteer power really is what's going to drive a lot of the recreational needs within our community from here to the future.
And by the way, I'm gonna make a plug on that, because I love the Diamond Valley Disc Golf. Guess what? Limited edition disc golfs are available with the Town of Diamond Valley logo. So just reach out to the town office and make sure you get one. We're gonna have an open house here soon, hopefully in August. Or I mean, a grand opening.
Disc golf disc. You can take the disc though with your library card, right there.
Wow. Cool, Dave. That's awesome. Perfect.
All right, last chance. For or against, come up to the microphone. I think everyone who spoke, everybody who spoke and everyone who didn't, but supported it by clapping or whatnot. All of that matters. Thank you very much for that. And with that, we're going to close number 8. Final questions. Any councilor may ask the CAO if there's anything further that they are wishing for information.
Yeah, we have a bit of a fox in the henhouse here with the concerns presented by Ms. Hemingway. And so, and it's quite unfortunate that none of our fellow compatriots on council would have joined you tonight. I would have loved to see your read with you, at least Ms. Delanne Miller. That would have been good. The ward member, Barb Castell, would have been great if she was here. I think you need some of that moral support. It's unfortunate that they're not there to be presenting to the public that there's an edge between our communities in negotiations and whatnot. It's very unfortunate that it was presented in that manner. However, the fox is in the henhouse with the uncertainty of the work that is the lack of a policy clearly defining what will be done with those roads. And so with the reality that we could be facing a judicial review on appeal with that not in place, and then the delay of 2 years for the municipal development plan to be created. I'm going to ask a question of our CAO or of Ms. Staples or of Ms. Florazone. Is it mute to go further in the discussion of the ASP as it stands? I don't even know if we can move forward.
So we'll carry, who's sitting attorney at GA.
I love my MGA.
Well, if I may, the reality is we may need to take a recess to look at the legal direction that we need to take. Because there is a a understanding that the request will be to take this back to our intermunicipal development committee, sorry, I should stand. And then to request a review of the intermunicipal development plan, which will take 2 years. So it's a moot point if we go ahead with this ASP approval or denial tonight.
Before you go, we have Heather. So let's get her information as well, just in case she's going to add some flavor. Go ahead, Heather.
I'm just wondering if this is the point in time that you do that, or do you do that when we're actually discussing the bylaw? This is the public hearing portion, so we can't really make any motions at this point in time anyway. Just a question. I think that we're kind of out of bounds here.
Yeah, you're correct. We have to close the public hearing at some point, and then that becomes a question. Heather, or Harry, Ms. Moreland.
If I may, just before that, the reason I asked that now is similar to what we did last time.
Yeah.
Well, do we have the potential then to need to leave the public hearing open?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking the question at this stage.
So let's see what we get.
So, I'm happy to share the information. It's all publicly available in our IDP, the MGA, and the election coming up is often a secret. However, if as we're going through this, council feels that we need to maybe have a private conversation, I also understand that. We'll start with the MGA since it is the highest order. The MGA section 690, again, municipality that is of the opinion that a statutory plan by an adjacent municipality has or may have a detrimental effect on it, that has given written notice of its concerns to the adjacent municipality prior to second reading. And there's another part here, and has, as soon as practicable, after second reading of the bylaw, attempted to use mediation to resolve the matter, may appeal the matter to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal. Intermunicipal development plan. Needs an update. Heather, Hemingway, and I are in full agreement on that. There was a circulation given. They did respond. There is a intermunicipal dispute resolution process outlined in here. So, the initiating municipality will ensure that the complete information addressing the relevant criteria outlined in the IDP is provided in support of all site-specific applications, and that all statutory plan processes are sufficiently documented. Upon circulation of a proposal, the administration of the responding municipality will undertake a technical evaluation, providing a response. They will determine whether a proposal could be processed without it being referred to the intermunicipal committee. And in the event that a proposal cannot be processed at the administrative level, the municipality may refer that the proposal goes to the intermunicipal committee for review. So the question, I think, at this point really is with the county, and if they believe at this stage amending the area structure plan in front of them to consider their concerns at this stage in the game would be satisfactory. If you can indeed close the public hearing, give first with further direction to amend the plan to consider to the satisfaction of the county their concerns. That is the penultimate. If we're at a stage where we're like, okay, yeah, we need to just add in this policy, that policy, and we're satisfied, we can amend the structure plan. If we're at a point where we're like, no, we need a whole new TIA, a whole new IDP, that's a very different conversation.
So do we have is there a policy that the county is willing to accept?
Just
Great question.
I saw Allison go over and have a conversation.
I guess to start, we would appreciate the opportunity to just talk about a little bit of the history of the policy back and forth here, if that's appropriate at this time.
Sure, I mean, to me, this is something that, you know, administration to administration, you just work it out. You know, it's not that hard, you just work it out. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and do your thing.
So I believe it was in 2023 when we received comments from the town on our submission at that time. This included letters from various agencies, including a letter from Foothills County. When we resubmitted, at that time it was a conceptual scheme in February of 2024, we did include responses to Foothills County's letter and included proposed policies in that conceptual scheme at that time. However, our understanding is that this version and this response was never actually circulated back to Foothills County. We understand that the circulation process had changed at that point until after first reading, I believe. And so as far as we're aware, Foothills County never saw those policies. In the change, when we were requested to change it to an ASP, we worked with administration to adjust the policies. And so based on the change from a conceptual scheme to an ASP and our conversations with administration, those policies were pulled. So this, I believe, is kind of where we've ended up where we are at today. The May 14th public hearing, we did not see the Foothills County letter until like the day before the hearing, so we did not have a chance to respond to it. Again, we are happy to address policies in the ASP that could potentially address Foothills County's concerns. We have drafted some and would be happy to discuss.
And if I can add on to that, so if council hears at the public hearing that there are some concerns and is willing to make amendments that addresses those concerns, regardless of whether or not Foothills on the spot can agree to them, they will have made all attempts to address those concerns and have potentially avoided hopefully an intermunicipal dispute or a challenge to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, which of course none of us want to go there. No, none of us want to end up in that place. I've been to that place too many times. I would like not to go back. But so we are going to make all attempts to make sure that the policies can address it. And I hope that willing to risk it is what I'm gonna say.
And just a very quick follow-up.
Okay, and then I got Heather.
Sorry, very quick follow-up. Do you have those policies for that policy for us to review today?
We crafted some in reading of the letter.
Okay.
We did in various first.
To the chair, I'm not sure, do we look at that now or would we debate?
Let's go to Heather. Come back, because we're not moving anywhere until we got clarity. Go ahead, Heather.
I'm not prepared to do this on the fly this way. I'm really not. I think more thought needs to go into it. We need to have more time to look at policies, et cetera. So I would not be in favor of throwing this on the table tonight. I think that Jonathan is correct. I think we need a bit more time. I get it. Everybody wants to move forward with this, especially the developers, but we need to do this right. We need to do thoughtful, well-planned development and growth and be as closely aligned as to our new MDP when it's passed. And at this point, I don't even feel that we're there for that. And I don't want to have to rewrite an NDP either, because that costs us a lot of money. So I'm fine with just postponing this meeting, however that happens, so that we can have some more thoughtful processes go into place regarding any policies that are going to have to come back, which would include Foothills. And I can see where there needs to be some more conversation around this. So that's just my opinion. I'm not in favor of throwing policies on the table tonight.
So if I may, Mayor Crane, I think it's out of the past. We really need to debate the question I have is, are we at a place where we can close the public hearing and move forward? That's my question to administration.
Well, then I will put it to you this way. Is council satisfied that they have obtained sufficient information from this public hearing?
No.
It is yes. Okay, thank you, Heather.
That's my answer to the question.
Brendan, do you feel that you have sufficient information? Cindy, do you feel you have sufficient information?
Yeah, this Foothills County issue needs to be resolved. For sure. Oh, no,
Jonathan? I'll come on.
as far as keeping, but I'm still unclear on this whole closing and first reading. Like, there's still some legislative stuff that's not making sense either. Because I have from the public, yes, but the county is a different concern. It's a circulation concern, which is different than a public hearing concern. So I'm a little confused on that. I have got all the information we need from the public.
Yes.
But Foothills County, circulating entity, I'm not sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
This would be the CEO and Verna. By giving it first reading, does the circulation problem get resolved then? Or, because we're gonna go from a developer community position to a community position. As soon as we change the first reading component of this, and I want to keep this between us and the developer. I want the developer to work with Foothills. I don't want to work with Foothills because this is between them, in my opinion. Carrie, sorry.
Just a few other sections from the MGA that might be of interest. After considering representations made to it about a proposed bylaw at the public hearing, and after considering any other matters it considers appropriate, the council may pass the bylaw or resolution, make an amendment to the bylaw or resolution it considers necessary, and proceed to pass it without further advertising or hearing, or defeat the bylaw. You cannot have another public hearing. We've been through that before. Fundamentally, keep it open. If you feel like you are satisfied with the information, you can direct us to go away, make amendments, come back, and you may make any amendment to the bylaw you consider necessary and proceed to pass it without further advertisement or hearing. We get to the fun thing that there is an election coming up. So we go away, we incorporate policies, the ideal situations that the county is satisfied. Then each council present at the meeting has the opportunity to review the full text, so that would be a red line version. And if that doesn't all get done in time for the election and we have higher than 50% turnover in council, we enter into this thing where a public hearing on a proposed bylaw is held. A councillor must abstain from voting on the bylaw if they were absent from all of the public hearing, and may abstain from the bylaw if they were only absent from part of the public hearing. So if the public hearing stays open over the election, then the new council in theory would have the opportunity to still vote on it.
So,
Moving pieces.
so here's a question. Number one, we gotta have a bit of a bio break here. Because we're gonna continue on like this for a half hour or an hour.
I think I've got it. It's based on what Carrie just said. I think we can close public hearing and bring forward amendments during our meetings. We don't have to pass it tonight. And one of the amendments hypothetically could be specific inclusion of a policy. We don't have to discuss that tonight because, as Heather said, in agreement with me, rushing to a decision like that, I'm not ready to do that. But that's a different question on closing the public hearing.
Yep, we've got what we need. They have policies in their computer. Heather is not willing to look at. She doesn't want to be rushed. I get it. How extensive are those policies would be my question. We're talking 4 proposed policies.
4 proposed policies.
I just want to ask before I go to bio break.
There's 4 items within the Foothills letter that we can tie back to the policy directly. We can go through them one by one.
I get to bring them under time.
Can that not be done after?
It can be done after the public hearing is closed, yes.
Okay, so we could read that at the next point.
It can be done at first reading, it can be done at second reading, it can be
There you
done.
go. So we can close the public hearing when we get to 8.1 after our bio break. Then we can ask her to read those in. Does that make sense, Vernon? Is that legit? Well, it totally makes sense that we would do it at that point. I'm asking from lead services, are we on cue? Okay, thank you. Hazel, have you gained sufficient information for the public hearing? Okay, just make sure, you're standing back up. Sorry, I had to sit down. Thanks for getting tired. Okay, I would like to thank all those who spoke or provided submissions for their comments. Council will now take all that information into consideration when deciding on this matter. I now declare the public hearing for bylaw 2025-118 closed at 8:10 PM, July 16th, 2025. All right, thank you. 15-minute bio break. It is 8:29. Heather, are you back with us at home?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Okay, council, let me just slide that away so I can sit down. Okay, moving on. We are closed on the bylaw. We are moving on in the agenda to 8.1, which is bylaw 2025-118 Colts Crossing Area Structure Plan. Now we can have some debate about everything we've heard and what we want to do. So we just went through a bit of a recess, and administration got together and talked about some policies that might address some of the MD concerns. So the MD concerns are on page 91, and that's an administrative function. So that really isn't for us to decide what is going to happen. It's administration addresses the concerns. They're either satisfied or they're not satisfied, and then negotiations on those points. So I don't think that is a massive deal. I know Heather was a little concerned. We had a sidebar with her. Doable, yes. Would have been nice to have it in the package, absolutely. But not a game changer on any stretch. Cindy, want to have your thoughts before we get?
I just wanted to put it on first reading on the table, so then we can debate it.
Yes, please.
Okay, so, I will, put first motion for bylaw, the council give first reading to bylaw 2025-118.
Thank you. Right, Heather, you were pretty adamant that you were not going to move on this, so we're going to go to you first, hear your concerns.
Sorry, am I there?
Yeah, you're good.
So, first of all, I'm not in favor. I'm in favor of development. It's not that at all. But I am in favor of thoughtful, well-planned development growth. And I also am in favor of any area structure plans being aligned more closely with our municipal development plan that is going to provide a solid plan for our future growth. I am happier with the phasing that has been presented of phase 1 and 2. I am not as keen as phase 3, and I wonder if it can't just be taken out of the ASP for now. There's a lot of issues with that, not only with the foothills, but the development of it when it comes to water and sewer and stuff. So and again, I still don't think that the ASP aligns enough with the draft municipal development plan. I feel that we must stay course to align with that. And I don't want to be pushed into passing any policies this evening. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I think that our residents and the MDP committee members and the staff and the consultants have worked very hard and long to follow the direction of council to get that municipal development plan done and hopefully in place soon. So anyway, that's where I'm at tonight. I'll see what these policies look like that are going to be presented, but we'll go from there. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it'd be my intention to get through first reading tonight and then ask for an amendment, just working on a motion for the taking back amendments to the county. I don't, especially with Heather with the health issues, to go through policies tonight, it's unfair for her. So unfortunately, I think that's where we're at. It would have been nice to have had those before. I do believe this does better align with our new MDP. If you remember, we had scenario 1, 2, and 3, and we decided not to hardline and go for 3, which was no greenfield development whatsoever, because that would have killed this completely. We went for a more moderate approach with the blend of scenario 2 and 3, if everyone remembers, that did allow for some greenfield development, because we have to recognize that if we do want some of that commercial land and hopefully the future employment lands development happening there, we do need some greenfield development to happen in the town to increase our population. We also don't know which developers are going to develop in our town, so we can approve all of these things and they might sit there for 50 years. And so I would hate to say no to you guys if you happen to be the one that will provide development when everyone else is sitting and we have no lots for sale, right? So we really just have to go through this process and hope for the best. We do have, if you look at the minutes from that we approved tonight from our last meeting, a water allocation policy, because we know that there will be issues as to who comes first and who does get the water license capacity. So we know we have to look at these things, and we have things going into place to make sure that that happens fairly and equitably and in a way that everyone understands. The other thing, we hear a lot about City of Calgary style housing and people not wanting that, but the thing that I've been learning on council that's been interesting is we blame it on City of Calgary housing style, city style housing, but the new reality is that we have 2.3 to 2.6 people living in houses now. You don't have families like mine, you know, with 4 kids in a house. That just doesn't exist. So the need for these large lots with large homes on them is gone away. And that's not City of Calgary's fault. That's a general economic or general demographic trend that we're experiencing. And it has actually nothing to do with the feel of the town. That has much more to do with the people willing to volunteer, to be on these, on our social clubs and other societies. That has a lot more to do with our small town feel. So I guess to me, it's a good balance, you know, with getting some greenfield development that gets our population up a little bit so that we can attract bigger businesses or more businesses, because a lot of them are sensitive to the population. So we need that. So the only problem coming into this meeting tonight was I really wish that you didn't have to put the first houses right next to the other ones. That was by far and away, I think that if that could have been solved, but if you're like dead set that that is absolutely necessary for this development to go forward, I mean, I have to take that as you're being truthful on that, and that is the honest answer, and I can accept that. But to me, that's like, I think that would have taken away 90% of the discontent, is that if you just didn't, like, you have people that live there for 20, 30 years, right? So I think that we're hitting that. So people will throw out, oh, I don't like it because of X, Y, and Z, when the reality is they know it's just because it's right across their fence. So to me, that was my biggest concern, was the phasing and putting 1A right there. Just with such a big development that it just happened to have to be there. That's really where I was at. So I'm happy to look at the new policies coming for that will address the MD's concern. And otherwise, I think it's the best having residential where we have residential, and commercial and business where we have it. It makes the most sense for this piece of property. So I'm satisfied.
Just gonna kind of piggyback on what Cindy has just said. I too, I think I'm really happy just to see it's in 3 phases as opposed to the 5. I'm also happy to hear that it's gonna be 50% is going to be employment plans, which will bring again businesses. So that, you know, residents can live, work and play here. I like that idea. As for the first reading, again, I would like to see that we go ahead with it, but you know, our we need to see the policies. Does that come like in the motion?
We can make we can add that later.
Yeah.
We can get through first.
Yeah, because I don't think any of us are really in the mindset right now to.
Yeah, we can have administration refine them,
Yeah.
bounce them back and forth. And then they can bring those back and forth.
Yeah.
If that's what will get, so we'll get there.
Yeah, and just like Cindy said, I know residents are, they're scared to change. You know, they've lived at a home and across the way is that's a greenfield. It hadn't been developed. As a woman said to me in church, she said, you know, I moved to a small town to live in a small town. And my response is, those people coming to town want the same thing we have here. And, you know, it's safe, it's beautiful. We're in close proximity to not only a larger center, but also to Kananaskis country. And, you know, I don't think people are scared, yeah, or I think they're worried about how the town is going to grow, but it's also with proper planning. I think Hope Crossing will meld right in with the community.
Thank you. John?
No, it's sake of sounding repetitive. You know, I'm definitely ready to go with to get the ball rolling, get the public hearing, or pardon me, the first reading completed tonight. But beyond that, I think we need to make sure that these policy documents that are going to be presented to the Foothills County in response to their concerns really meet the legislative legal requirements so that we really have the ball in our court should the county proceed, as has been threatened this evening, to take us to a judicial review. So I think the sooner or the better we have our information, the tighter it is. I think that puts us in a much more defensible position. I don't want to go into battle being unarmed, and I kind of felt that we were blindsided tonight, and I didn't appreciate that. So it would behoove us as council to make sure we have everything in order before we approve anything.
Okay, thank you. Brendan?
Not much to say now, which is nice to go last. I guess the high notes is I'm much happier to see the reduction of phases 4 and 5 for future consideration. You know, I said a couple of times tonight, it's not a matter of if we're building, it's just a matter of when and how. And we need to make sure we have all the information. And unfortunately, like Jonathan said, I do like that word blindsided because I think that's a nice way of putting it. Up until that point, everything was going really well. And I think that, you know, residents had another opportunity to voice their concerns. There's been a little bit of social media work out there. I posted a video on the weekend and I got a lot of positive feedback from residents. And by positive, I mean both opposed and in favor of. But I think that residents have had some time to allow this to kind of marinate a little bit between the May meeting and this meeting. And while it does feel fast, I think that there's been a lot of good work done here by both administration, and there's certainly been a lot of reading done by council to make sure that we have all the information in front of us. So I'd be happy to give the first reading to begin the conversation and make sure that we check off all our boxes. Certainly with the foothills, I don't foresee that being a big concern unless they choose to make it one. It seems rather procedural. And if it goes any other way, then we'll address it at the time. But yeah, I think that's where I stand on it. But I would like to see the policies and everything at a later date. I think everyone else has addressed that too, so.
Thank you, and I'll take final say here. I'm definitely in favor of moving forward with the first reading. For 12 years, I've been saying that we need to plan for the growth when the growth comes. And everything we have done up to this point is to plan for this event of where growth boomed on us. I'm in construction, I saw Chestermere explode, I saw Airdrie explode, I saw Bennington explode, Country Meadows explode. Every one of those subsections were absolutely just overnight exploding. And that's how fast things can happen in construction. And we were always 3% growth, and look where we live, as Councillor Martin said. Absolutely gorgeous location. We have water allocation. We have a brand new treatment plant from the flood 2013. We have a $21 million upgrade sewage capacity to double our population. We actually have interested parties in development. This particular one was in Black Diamond's node when it was annexed. And it was always to be, that's where the growth is going to go, because to the north, Turner Valley side, we have pipelines. To the west, we have pipelines and an old dump site. To the south, we have pipelines. So there is no capacity growth. That is why Black Diamond annexed 5 quarter sections. And that is the limit right there. I'm very impressed after 4 years of having these discussions, not even being involved in the first bit because we're still Black Diamond, but still attending those sessions and seeing what was happening. This is the right way to go. It's the right way to move forward. We need commercial lands. It gives us commercial lands. We need connectivity and green space. It gives us connectivity and green space. It gives us a variety of housing, which we do not presently have. We have capacity. All of our infill, as I pointed out earlier, and you all know that, every one of the little tiny spots that we have in town is gobbled up. And as Brendan said, developer or Cindy said, the developer can sit on that for the next 6 years and not do a thing. So we need to move. We need to grow. This is going to be beautiful when it's done. It's going to add to the community. And to Hazel's point about community, I moved to a small town because I grew up in a small town. My present hometown is about 7,000. But I can go back there and the same people are going to say the same things. It's the attitude of the people that make community. It's the volunteers that make the community. And the people that move here, we engage them, we accept them, they become part of that mindset. And where are you from? You're from Diamond Valley, and people say, I like that. So that's what we need to really look at, is how we want our community to grow. And I think this hits the notes. On the MD front, I think this is very achievable. It's an administration to administration. It's a simple conversation of saying, okay, we have some sticking points. It's based on roads and accesses. How do we get past it? Well, that's their business. That's what they do. They will come back with solutions and we can look at those proposals when the time comes. So that is about it for me. So I'm ready to call the vote if everyone else is good. No. Can't comment.
Up to.
Oh, that comes after. First we pass this, then we can make amending motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I see where you're going, but we were already at the end. So is everyone satisfied they have said their piece? Cindy has a motion for council to give first reading to bylaw 2025-112 by accepting 118, sorry. Okay, all in favor? All opposed?
Me.
Thank you, Heather. Motion is carried. Cindy, go ahead. I'll just say to the public as well, before I hand it over, that first reading gets the ball moving so we can see more and we have further access to the information, more detailed and what it looks like. Right? It's not until third. So this really gets the ball moving in the right direction to get the information that most people are looking for. Okay, thanks.
So my motion is to direct administration to work with the applicant to develop policy amendments to address the 4 points of concern of Foothills County as outlined in their letter on May 12th, 2025, prior to second reading. The letter was May 12th, so do you want me to read it again for you, Myrna? I know you type fast.
Sorry.
Maybe not that fast. Policy amendment
Is that 4 points? Is that?
to address the 4 points. Raised by Foothills County as outlined in their letter on May 12th. 2025. I guess we should say, and incorporate them into the ASP prior to second reading. As amendments to the ASP prior to second reading.
Carrie, thoughts?
Yeah, through the chair, if I could just get some clarification on that. Would you want them incorporated as a red line, or do you want the additional policies brought forward for voting on as an amendment to the plan?
No.
We need to see the policies.
Yeah, and so we want these amendments in policy form.
So how
I want to see, I want to know where they are in the, we need to see where they're gonna be in the ASP, so we kind of.
Okay, so I get, yeah, so the question of clarification is I will bring back a motion to amend the plan with this policy, this policy, this policy with a red line version.
And the council.
Because we want to see it physically, like if that's the road we're talking about, 1.1, this is the section.
Yeah.
1.2, this is the section, you know.
Yeah, we want, the goal is that at second reading, we know exactly how it looks, so we can pass it, right? Or vote on it, so we can't just see them by themselves, it has to be.
We'll have both, so we'll have the policies.
In your staff report is usually where you say these are
Yeah,
all
so
listed
we
changes.
still have to make a motion to pass the amendments and then presumably pass the amendments and then it will be second read as amended and you'll have the consolidated version in front of you.
Perfect. Yeah. Yep, that's what we do. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. The council director of administration to work with the applicant to develop policy statements to address the 4 points of concern raised by Foothills County as outlined in their letter on May 12, 2025, and incorporate them as amendments to the area structure plan for presentation to council. Now, we kind of wanted to bring it in August if we could.
I don't.
Do we want to add a date?
I don't want to add a date, just in case the county drags their feet. It is holidays and they take summers very seriously in the county. So, yeah. So no date, but I'm assuming it's gonna be your priority on your end and our administration's end. But as soon as possible, if we need to hold a special meeting, we can hold a special meeting.
Right. Sure. All right, any debate on the motion? Heather, any debate?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay, I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And that is carried unanimously. Anything further for this bylaw? I believe that covers the base. Excellent. Okay, we're moving on to 8.2. Bylaw 2025-119 LUB amendment, new district. Carrie. Heather wants to talk. Heather, go ahead.
I just don't know what the point of going forward with these in relation to the ASP that we just did first reading on. Again, this is just, to me, I wasn't expecting to see these two, and they're directly related to that development, and so I'd rather see the first one passed, the ASP passed, before we start doing land use bylaw amendments. Also, I'm questioning, we're doing all these land use bylaw amendments and we haven't even redone our land use bylaw, bringing both of them together yet. Yeah, anyway, that's just my thoughts.
All right, thank you. I'm going to let Carrie respond. Carrie, go ahead.
So under our current council process, we typically would bring first reading, then there'd be typically about a month, and then we'd hold a public hearing, second and third. What we attempted to try today was to hold a public hearing first, second, consent, third. It's my desire that after election, we continue on public hearing first, second, consent, third. I will also put myself in public shame that the advertisement went out for 118, it missed 119 and 120. The intent between the applicant and myself was originally to bring all three concurrently for public hearing. So by giving first reading today on 119 and 120, it would allow us to bring these two bylaws back for public hearing at the same time that we bring back the amendments and marked up bylaw 118, and it will still, in theory, be able to be approved as a package, if that is council's desire at that time.
You, John. So, because the procedure for suggesting a first reading, we are not to debate what's in front of us. That's right. So I'm going to make the motion that council give bylaw 2025-119 first reading and direct administration to set a public hearing for a later date.
So I'm going to give the discussion. Heather, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm quite okay with it. I mean, it just kind of didn't make sense to me that we're moving forward with this and we haven't even passed the ASP, so. But I'm fine with it if rest council is, yeah.
Thank you. All right, John. And Heather, I understand your concerns because that was my initial concern as well. But the reality is this. If the ASP for Colts Crossing is denied, if the motion is defeated, then these motions become mute. And we don't need to proceed further with second and third reading on these two upcoming bylaw amendments of the LUPs.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's just, that's what I mean. It's just, I'd rather, when would these, like, are these public hearings planned, Carrie, so that it's not in the summertime? People can actually attend? Because that was one of the complaints here, or would they be in August?
Through the chair, if I may.
Sure.
So the original intention was to have the public hearings for 118, 119, and 120 concurrent today. Again, there was a oops in the advertising, which I've apologized profusely to the applicant. The intention was to bring it back for public hearing in August. Council for the town of Diamond Valley does not take a summer break. We do hold regular council meetings in July and August, presumably to continue doing business. I may be so.
I understand council has to meet, but it's not necessarily just about council. It's about our residents being able to speak. And as we witnessed tonight, there weren't as many residents that were attending this public hearing, and that could have been different if it wasn't in the middle of the summer. I'm just thinking of the residents, Carrie.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Any further comments?
There's 2 hours of precipitation on the next 2 ballots.
If I can, I want to piggyback on what Heather said because I've spoken with the resident during our recess. And I could be completely wrong here, but I want clarification. Does not the MGA mandate when the public hearing should be once an application is deemed complete, or is that totally we can discredit based on our discretion?
Yes, so when it comes to bylaw applications, when it comes forward at all, is at the discretion of the municipality, with some consideration that the applicant is owed due process and a chance to be heard in front of council. You know, which kind of alludes to our elongated timeline getting to this point of the ASP. And with regards to the public hearing, if there is a policy in place. So if the council procedure bylaw was to say no public hearings are held in July or August, then obviously we would respect that. Outside of that, it's at the discretion of council. Some councils are very clear and they set the date at the meeting. That can provide complications if you have staff that were planning to be in like Italy for that month before their report is due. So best practice is typically considered just to direct administration to set a public hearing. Then we get the circulation of the advertising out, we make sure the reports are done and in front of you for consideration in a timely manner, which respects the efforts of the applicant.
Excellent, thank you.
I just want to debate the whole August issue because I find it in my own life that I have more time to read the newspaper in the summertime. I have more time to socialize with my neighbors and I'm with you. I would say that I would actually be more aware of things in the summertime than I am during the school when we're off to practice, off to everything else that's entitled. So yeah, so I don't know. And we do carry on business and we don't stop for the summer, so I'm actually fine with the August. But I think you're gonna lose people sometimes, like we also have snowbirds that aren't here in the wintertime, so who do you appease? So I think we just have to carry on life as normal, and work with the applicant.
Final note for me before Mayor Crane called it. A lot of the residents that were at the first meeting that I spoke to had their questions also answered, and they didn't want to give up a second night of their summer or life coming out to a second meeting. And that would have been in excess of 25 to 30 people that I spoke to, whether through social media or on the phone. Our first one was big because there was a lot of questions that had to be answered. And I bet if we had a third one, we'd probably see less people because we're getting a lot more questions answered. So just leave it at that.
Thank you. Anybody? All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Heather?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
8.3, Brendan?
The council give bylaw 2025-120 first reading and directs administration to set up a public hearing for a later date.
Thank you. Debate?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Ariel. Ms. Cage, you want to say something?
No debate.
All in favor? Thank you. And action items, thank you, Heather. It's nothing. 10, nothing. 11, nothing. Closed session, not needed. Motions arising from closed, not needed. Adjourned at 9 on the nose.